Welcome into a live draft coverage here on the FFPC YouTube. I'm Aidan Liquorie. That's Dave Terp. Terp, for the first time, we are actually doing this a live draft, not an online draft, an in-person in Las Vegas. We're doing the High Society League. It is a $10,000 entry fee per person, per team, I should say. Draft is going to kick off in roughly 10 minutes. They're currently drawing their selections. The board, as you can see, is there. Terp, while we wait these 10 minutes, what are you looking for from the draft? Do you think it's going to be any different than the main events we've been covering, or is
This
there
will be a
similar?
go get your guy type of thing. You're not going to be worried about ADP when it comes to spending $10,000 on a league. You're going to be going out there and you're going to see guys you think are reaches, but when you're spending that kind of league in that kind of money in a confined league, I mean, you have to go with your own guys. And if you're going to see guys like Derrick Henry, I'm sure, Najee Harris, guys like that fall a little farther than they normally would in main event drafts, football guys drafts, etc., just because they're not guys, they're guys go-to people. So they're going to be taking guys maybe a round early, 2 rounds early to make sure that they secure the guy that they want, because we're not talking about $125 anymore. We're talking about $10,000. So this is no joke.
Yeah, I mean, when looking at the boards from some of the morning drafts that we had here, and you certainly see the ADP, when comparing it, I should say, to the ADP that we've been seeing, it's certainly different in all kind of the formats, because I do think there's in person, you can't risk waiting. There's a lot of people, and I've done some interviews with drafters right after, and I was asking like, oh, who was your favorite pick, stuff of that, and a lot of them were saying it's like, oh, I took, one guy was saying I took Gabe Davis mid-third because that's my guy this year, and he's not coming back to me, I don't think, so you go get him.
There's always a chance, but it's when it comes to the money that people are spending drafting live, maybe one team, maybe a bunch of teams, especially in this $10,000 leagues, the $5,000 leagues that you see that the FFPC offers. You have to get your guy, especially because you're not really playing for an overall prize. It's a confined 12-man league, and the strategy is a little bit different.
Yep. Terp, we've talked about it extensively in the last couple of days about the Thursday night game affecting our draft. So, but I want some solid predictions from us instead of just talk. Who is going to be going within the first 15 picks after their performance tonight?
So the obvious, Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. I mean, they're obviously the first round picks already, top 10 picks. Obviously Kupp's being higher. So the thing you have to worry about with them is if they go nuts, they could get into the number 1 overall, number 2 overall selection tomorrow. So let's just say they both put up 30. I would say in a large amount of drafts tomorrow, Saturday, that you're going to see Kupp 1, Diggs 2, just because people are fearful of being 30 points down before because the regular season is not long. So they have a chance to be down 30 before even starting, and then you're trying to play catch up when it's definitely tricky. So outside of those two, I mean, Gabe Davis, Allen Robinson both have the option, in my opinion, to get into the late first round with a monster game. If Gabe Davis goes out and does, puts up the number he put up in the playoffs or very similar to it, somebody's going to take him in the first round. That person is an idiot, but somebody's going to do it, and that's why you're risking a little bit tomorrow. When I have 2 main event drafts myself tomorrow, you're risking that you could be in the 11th slot and somebody takes Gabe Davis, and then you're like, damn, 40 points behind. So that's a risk. Robinson, I don't think he'll get to that level, but if he has a big game tonight, puts up 25, 30, I think he gets into the second round pretty easily.
I think there's also something to be said, though. Them having guys like Gabe Davis having big games kind of also confirms people's notions of what we've been hearing in the preseason. And if he has a big game, he's super involved in the attack, getting a bunch of targets, people are going to assume that that's going to translate over to the rest of the season, which it's not just, I mean, you mentioned that the points are going to help, but it's also the confirmation bias of what their expectations for the season.
You saw Amari Cooper last year. Amari Cooper was not a first-round pick, not a second-round pick, but he had a monster game. He looked like he was getting a lot of targets and everything was great. And then people took him in the first round, and I can almost guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, all those people that took him in the first round weren't in the money when it counted. Because the best thing, in my opinion, is if you already know your pick, that's great. But if you don't, you want to be in that like 7, 8, 9 range going into tomorrow, and then you just want this game to just shoot out crazy tonight.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have guys like Allen. If Allen goes up for 30 plus tonight, somebody might take him in the top 5. People are crazy. They'll see the guaranteed points. Guys like Diggs, guys like Kupp, even though they should be up there. I mean, crazy things happen, like especially if a running back emerges in Buffalo, or even a running back emerges in for the Rams. You're looking at Darrell Henderson moving up a couple rounds. Akers, if he actually looks good, moving up into the second round. Singletary, Cook, even Zach Moss, if he puts Zach Moss 2 TD, let's say 60 yards, I'll get him drafted in the first 10 rounds. It'll be a wasted pick, but he'll get drafted there.
Yeah, and we talked about Allen Robinson, my play of the week, on our preview show. Check that out. It's on YouTube now. We kind of discussed on that show. We think he's going to have a massive game and move up. But what about what happens in your experience? A guy like Isaiah McKenzie, not a big game, but a solid game. He's involved. Allen's looking at him, and he looks good. Does he move up even just a couple of rounds relative to his ADP because people are going to buy into the offense and his role in that offense, or does he kind of
does like a 6 for 60 and a touchdown? I think he gets into the 9th round, maybe the 8th round.
Yeah,
he's definitely not getting drafted there in main events before, but this Thursday game is a different dynamic. But if Isaiah McKenzie goes out there and goes 1 for 10 and just totally not really relevant, he's going to be falling 18th, 19th, 20th round, maybe undrafted in some drafts. And that's where the value comes in, because it goes both ways, obviously. I mean, if you really like a guy, it's tough to draft after the game. I love Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
So I know drafting 2 main events tomorrow that the chances of me getting Diggs are very, very slim, because I'm not going to push him up too far, even though I like him a lot. And if I don't get him, I'm probably going to miss him, because somebody's going to take him higher than I'll get to. So the game just brings in, it's one of the best things the FFPC offers. It gives you that total wild card going into tomorrow.
And you mentioned kind of Buffalo's running backs emerging. We got about 5-6 minutes till this draft tips. If you had to predict, you're a big James Cook guy. Might not be tonight, though. Might not be his breakout game. So my question is, do you think it's Singletary is going to have the best game for those Buffalo running backs, or do you think it literally is a 3-way split, or does James Cook somehow emerge in week 1 and we're buying his stock big time tomorrow?
The scary part about it, I think Singletary is going to be the main guy tonight.
Okay.
But James Cook has that ability to take one to the house. And if he takes one to the house, that means he's going to earn more carries. And if James Cook is non-existent at all, he's going to be an afterthought in the next couple drafts. So I think James Cook's the better player. I think he'll be the better player long-term. But tonight, I think Singletary will solidify a little bit of the role. But if Cook gets some carries and makes a big play, receiving, or takes 60 yards to the house, watch out, because James Cook, he's another guy that could be pushed up really, really high.
It is funny how, when you look at us fantasy players, can be so influenced by one play. When James Cook has one nasty touchdown run, its stock is soaring.
He's probably the one guy in this game that can be affected the most, like round jump, if he has a big game. I mean, Gabe Davis is normally 3rd, 4th round, so let's just hypothetically say it gets in the 1st. It's not the craziest jump in the world. I don't think it's smart.
I think, we're also talking about not idiots, as you call them, legitimate.
We're talking about guys who have put $10,000 up. So I don't think. I mean, obviously, in this draft, you're not going to see that happen because the game hasn't started yet. But tomorrow, with the 2,000, you're seeing a lot of guys who are veterans who know what they're doing. But still, though, it's hard to know in a short regular season. You don't want to be 0-1 because of Gabe Davis 40 burger. But if you also take Gabe Davis, you better hope you're 1-0, because I've seen it in the past. Got Peyton Manning when that year he went nuts, went number 1 overall. And the guys, he was up 80 points going into the weekend and then lost. And then after that, I think he was 1-11 or 1-10, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It's a risk.
Yeah, it's certainly, as you mentioned, the FFPC offers it. It's a dynamic that before I started working, never even kind of considered.
Never think about it, because everybody, when you tell them, they're like, you're crazy.
Yeah, but it's a unique feature, and as always, myffpc.com, we still do have spots left. Best ball tournament sold out today. That is gone.
That's awesome.
Terminator sold out. Superflex, I believe, is either close to or sold out. All we got for football guys, main event, we still have slots left. It is tracking to sell out, but you can still reserve your spot either for tonight's drafts, Friday through Saturday. So get in there now. Draft couple of minutes away. The anticipation is killing me. They have,
Talking about a lot of money.
They were, dude. I said like I wanted to cover this one because I was intrigued to see the draft too, because the YouTube thumbnail is fantastic for views. It's just throwing 10K entry up there. That's gonna be
seriously.
That's
I mean,
clicks.
People see that and they're just trying to see, exactly what these guys are thinking, because you're not putting up $10,000 if you don't know what you're doing. I mean, out of these 12 guys, the guy recognized 8 to 12 of them.
Yeah.
So 8 out of 12 of them. So this is gonna be fun because this is big time money, and like I said, it's a confined league, so drafting will be a little different. It'll definitely be a lot more go get your guy, whether it's 2 rounds, 1 round. You'll see. I wouldn't be shocked if you see a guy like Derrick Henry fall into the 3rd round in a draft like this.
Yeah, that off to a hot start. Phone already going down, so we're gonna have to figure out what's going on with that. Terp, we're seeing some comments in the stream, loving to know who the players are in this league right before the draft kicks off. Didn't ask all of them if we had permission to share, so we're not going to say who's in it just because we didn't.
Definitely don't want to bring anybody up, because not that it really is going to matter. And most of these guys are well-trained professionals and they've been doing thousands of drafts so far. But in this kind of league, I mean, you don't want anybody to have any sort of edge on you.
Yeah. And Terp, it's part of the trade that we're in, that it seems as though, just reading our company message board, that we're having some issues getting High Society up and running. So we don't exactly know when this is going to begin. My phone seems to be back working.
We are back.
This is going to be exciting to manage.
It's going to be an adventure. That's how we want it. We don't want anything to ever be easy.
No, the YouTube is continuously growing, but when we get big time, we'll be shipping out the guys with like the heavy duty camera rigs so that we can have instead of
doing live feeds in these people's houses for the 500,000 when they're competing for the $1 million at the end and they're leading. You'll have a camera crew at their house.
It's like the COVID year when it's like Belichick's dog was on the computer and you got the Vikings draft room. Here we if it did, we shall see. Yep, it looks like it started. Obviously, our stream that we're displaying here is probably a little bit behind as they announce it. So we'll just monitor it. It does look like it just began with, I don't know what's going on with it, if I'm being entirely honest, because the clock seems like it's paused. So we'll just monitor it. I'm waiting to hear Balky's voice carries throughout this entire ballroom.
He's extremely loud.
And in the best way possible. I'm walking around getting my snippets, and you're just hearing him like Ramondre Stevenson, running back, just echoing, booming. So I'll wait to see see what's going on. It does look, though, our first pick is going to be Christian McCaffrey, but then it looks like
I don't know if you saw, they put him on the injury list today. Carolina, he went through a full practice, but it literally I just saw it pop up on my feed right before I got on air with you. He got cut with a cleat on his shin.
Terp.
I know. I'm just as scared as you are.
I'm a Christian McCaffrey owner. I didn't see this.
It literally just happened. Everything looks fine. It looks like he just they said it's a minor cut on his shin from a cleat. So he practiced, which is always a good thing, full practice, but still on the injury report. And every time you see Christian McCaffrey on the injury report, you definitely get nervous. I just took him in a main event twice. Dude, so Christian I'm very nervous.
It just always goes, and Christian McCaffrey does go 1, as we can see.
So clearly, the number 1 owner is not worried. So I don't think either of us.
Christian McCaffrey, it just seems like in past years, this cut is going to escalate, and he's going to get it infected, and then his leg's going to need to be amputated.
We got to be positive.
Positive vibes only here.
Positive vibes only. That's it. I'm going to wear the hoodie tonight.
McCaffrey is, and you've talked about it on past streams, but I think I'll just reaffirm it here. I'm going McCaffrey 1 because McCaffrey at full health is better than Jonathan Taylor in every facet.
By a landslide. Not even close.
I mean, obviously the injuries are concerning to me, but you need to take risk in fantasy sometimes, and you're going to win. And Taylor's not a bad pick, but if McCaffrey is healthy for a good amount of the season, he's a league winner in and of himself. Jonathan Taylor too. Really no surprises. Obviously, as you said, we were saying on our last live stream that like this board, you would have hated to be in this board because it's like very solid. There's no riches. I can only imagine in a $10,000 entry.
This is going to be a tough board. you're gonna see guys. My guess is you'll see a guy like Michael Pittman, who's very popular. You'll see him jumping up into the second round, mid-second round. I wouldn't be surprised. You're going to see guys go a little higher than you want. And like I said, it's go get your guy. Don't even be dancing besides that.
And we had some questions in the chat. Our guy Dave Gladstone did answer one of them. But Rams, Bills players, you can swap them in and out by Sunday. They lock in. So that is another unique feature of the FFPC. If you have a Sunday player in your lineup, it is not necessity. Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp go 3-4.
The sticker girl looks a little lost.
We went right to 4.
She's on the wrong stickers. Unless I think she's trying to catch up.
I think she is. Eckler goes 5. She's. You know what? Respect to them. Job is brutal.
Absolutely the worst thing. I used to do it like when I used to commission leagues and have people over for work. I used to do that and then draft at the same time. It is absolutely brutal. Now, especially if you don't, even if you know what you're doing, it's hard to do.
I know a majority of the people in this league are live right now. There's a couple online. My hope is I would assume that even if you're online, your sticker's still getting placed on the board, but we'll see that. So for those watching at home, the board so far: McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson's third. Don't know why the sticker's up. Oh, maybe they're looking for Justin Jefferson's sticker right now. Cooper Kupp.
My guess is he's there somewhere.
One would assume Justin Jefferson not being there. He is Justin Jefferson third.
Whoever that was, that's a winner right there. I can't see who he is, but that's teamwork.
Justin Jefferson went 1 overall in I believe 2 of the live drafts this morning. That I was
not surprised at all. I mean, people were scared of McCaffrey. People don't think Taylor's going to be perfect like he was last year. So I don't hate it. I mean, and there's plenty of options. Second round, if you really want to get into the ETN, maybe Aaron Jones falls, guys like that. Fournette.
Yeah. And Terp, just when we were saying like, oh, maybe no reaches, we've had a consistent first 6 in ADP,
I was
right?
Clearly wrong.
Yeah. Derrick Henry 6 overall. I mean, but this could be if you believe in Derrick Henry this year and you're team 6, probably I would assume there's a chance he comes at you, but probably not. Is that just to go get your guy? But with Jamar Chase, Diggs on the board. I thought
he was going to fall to the third round. I know most of these guys. I'm very surprised he went 6.
I'm stunned here. The risk, we just said there's risk in fantasy that you need to take. That's the whole kind of concept about McCaffrey going 1. But Derrick Henry's he's getting up there in age. He doesn't really have the receiving chops.
In a confined league, maybe he looks better than he does in a where you got to win the overall thing. There we go.
I love that.
That's a type of pick. That's a type of pick that I like to see.
We'll get off our Derrick Henry slander because
we can literally talk about him for days.
Yeah, because now in Saquon, we're off to a hot start.
And now we're off to a great start.
Are you surprised though a bit the running back run to start this? I mean, no Chase, no Diggs.
Not necessarily because we're talking about confined leagues. So
yeah,
I mean, you're not really worried about the big scores every week. You're looking about winning games, obviously scoring points too.
Yeah,
but getting safer running backs, getting your guy. I mean, I'm surprised Jamar Chase is still on the board. I'm surprised nobody's taking Diggs, but maybe people aren't really thinking there's a big difference between Diggs and Lamb and Adams and guys like that. You're going to see them fall a little bit more.
I mean, we also talked. You're probably trying to avoid that running back dead zone.
1,000%. They're trying to avoid that dead zone because I saw it on Twitter a bunch today, and that dead zone is ugly when it comes to these drafts. And nobody wants to get stuck with an all receiver start and then getting David Montgomery.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and Dalvin goes 10, the running back run continues. I'm assuming that we're going to see a massive run on receivers in the second and third round, though, because they're going to go.
I would be surprised. I'm actually very surprised that Diggs and Chase just went.
Yeah,
Chase at 11 is probably, one of the – but people – like I said, Chase is a boom guy. Yeah, obviously he's one of the best receivers in football, but there are weeks when he's not, it's Higgins' show. So
and it's very different than the main event, as you were saying. It's tough to compare, but that's the ADP we're going to use to base it. The latest Jamar Chase has gone main event in the last 2 days was 11. So
very surprising.
A quick question from our guy Sports Betting Man in the chat. He's asking us a little thought experiment. Christian McCaffrey plays 4 games this year, but he averages 27 PPR points. In 22, I think at that point, I'm going to disagree with you because I think at that point it's too. He hasn't been healthy for what?
He goes in the top 5 probably.
I think that I mean, it's kind of Saquon. Look at Saquon's fall in drafts with injuries. I think you kind of look at that. Now, granted, he's risen again. So I guess you make a good point. I'm saying probably McCaffrey's late. I would say 4 games, but he does that late first would be my pick. Someone in the chat said, Dave Gladstone, a couple of picks ago, said Pitt's coming soon, and damn right, Pitt's came the last pick of that first round.
I feel like that's a new thing, Pitts over Andrews. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it at all. I think I have Pitts above Andrews. I think you do as well.
I do. I have Pitts as tight end number 1, so I'm fine taking him over all of them.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Fantasy Mojo had a tweet the other day that there was a draft yesterday where Pitts went 104. Just go get your guy. I don't know about that early, but
I don't know about that early, but hey, I mean, if you're thinking he's going to be a clear tight end 1 and separate himself from Kelsey Andrews and the rest of the people, why the hell not? Go for it.
And I just want to make note, obviously, every stream that we've done with me, I've made a note of my Alvin Kamara love. If you're again, we talked about running back start. Dalvin and Alvin Kamara is a hell of a way to start your draft.
Electric start, and especially in a confined league. I mean, you pretty much can ignore the running back position for a really long time.
It is also funny because we've kind of made it known that on these streams that we're going to hate on teams, and I really didn't think that would happen. I'm intrigued to see where Team 6 goes because every other team I look at like that so far is 2. I'm like, even the Pitts Diggs team, I'm loving that start.
I love the start too. I mean, like you give yourself so many options.
And then looking at the second round, Najee goes at the 2.2, then Kamara, and then Devontae Adams. Obviously, we're both hesitant on Najee, but when you get Jamar Chase at 11, you have some wiggle room. So
one player that we really never talk about on this show that I feel like, I mean, literally have not spoken about, I think once, that's still a second round pick, a first round pick in some people's eyes, is Joe Mixon. I feel like he's the guy that just keeps getting ignored, and I'm one of those people who ignore him, but I don't really have a good reason why. Like, he's just a guy that, like, I feel like is good. He has a 20-point upside, but does he have 30, 40-point upside? And I don't think he does. I don't know. Something about Mixon this year, like, I'm very underexposed compared to everybody else.
I think Mixon, in a way, is the floor is higher than the Saquons, just the Cooks because of injury, but you're not getting as much upside as you were them. I think, especially in high stakes leagues, you're drawn to upside, especially when you're looking at the main events. Football guys, when you kind of end up going terms on, you need upside. But I like Joe Mixon at where he's going right now. I'll go look at what he's been going at in the ADP the last couple of days. He's been going 2.3, so he's going a little later than he has been going. But I think Dave Gladstone just said in the chat he might lose some of his receptions. I'm not buying that. I think that
I'm not buying it either. I mean, if you're really worried about Chris Evans, their O-line's better. I just keep passing on him. Like, I keep looking at him against like Swift and Barkley, and or Kamara, and I just keep passing him. I don't really have. He's like one guy where like I don't really have a reason why. Yeah, he's definitely a talented offense. Offensive line's way better. All the things check the box, but he's just not the sexy pick for me.
No, it's literally that. I think Mixon we're going to look back on in a couple of months, and we're going to recall this conversation and be like,
and we're either going to be excited or we're going to be regretting it.
No, I think if I had to guess, if I make a prediction, I think it would be something along the lines of we would both be like, yeah, I mean, we said we didn't know why we weren't on him as much, but it's right. He's just, of all the guys going those first 2 rounds, we have almost certainly talked about Joe Mixon. I would say the least. Like, I'm looking at this board right now. Like, I can't remember the last time we touched on him. But I think it is a little bit disrespectful to him because, again, not the sexiest pick, but he's on the Bengals offense. Like, for all we hype up these offenses and the workload, like he's there. I mean, Mixon, I guess you could say he has some of the injury concern, but who really doesn't in some of these back half running backs in the late first? So yeah, Joe Mixon, and then he gets followed by Leonard Fournette with Cooper Kupp.
Kind of high. I feel like it's higher than normal. Fournette.
Yeah,
has been in the 3rd round.
It's a bit higher than he has been going. He's been going early 3rd, 3.2. His earliest was 2.9 in the main event the last 2 days. So a couple of guys, Jamar Chase going at the lowest that we've seen, and Fournette going at the earliest. So I'm on Fournette though. I'm not really buying into the reduced workload. I'm sure that might just happen a bit at times, but to be expected. I just think the receiving workload was incredibly high last year, and it very well could go up higher because I'm while the O-line issues might hurt his run game, I think it's just going to be checkdowns. And Terp, you predicted it. Pittman's going to go super high. Look at him.
No surprise there. I mean, he's been like the hottest player moving up boards from the early, drafts to now. I just feel like there's so many things to like about Pittman, and pair him with Jefferson in a league like this is confined. It just makes so much sense.
Looking at all these teams so far, what's your favorite duo of the 10 teams that have a duo right now?
Of the 10, there's a lot of good ones, and there's also ones I don't like at all.
Yeah.
Number 12 I like. Number 10 I like. Number 9 I like. Number 8's okay. I'm not a Kelsey guy, so I'll pass there. No 6, no 5, no 4. Like 3. Yeah, I would say probably my favorite would be 12 or 3.
Okay. I'm leaning 9-10 for me. I like the Barkley Adams pairing because I talked about it in the last show.
They're very close behind through 2 rounds. I mean, you can't really.
It's tough. It's tough to ask you that 2 rounds in, but it's just I'm intrigued to see your popular duo start.
Javonte Williams is definitely a guy that has been going higher in main events, but it's not a bad start if you believe in him. I don't personally. I think it's going to be more of a timeshare with obviously him leading, but I don't think he's worth a 2nd round pick.
A bit surprising, especially how reactive the fantasy community is. There hasn't been necessarily good Javonte news. All the news has been like, no, it's going to be 55-45, like Melvin's going to be there, and he hasn't dropped. I think it's just we're buying into the talent.
For a little bit, he was like early on, he was a 1st round pick. Early on in drafts, everybody thought he was going to be the new guy. And then when they got Gordon, everything just the bottom fell out, and he was moving in the 2nd round, and then he slipped to the 3rd in a couple drafts, but nothing crazy. But he's pretty much been stuck there, and I don't understand why he hasn't fell a little bit. I just feel like guys have better roles. Even later, like guys like Stevenson, Edmonds over Javonte Williams, and you can get them guys 5 rounds later and get more impact wide receivers or tight ends.
Yeah, Dave Gladstone chiming in chat. His favorite start is Kelsey and Lamb. And I mean, if you're a Kelsey believer, just to continue what he's been doing in the past and getting CD, they're really
talking about a ton of targets there. I mean, I think Kelsey's getting close to the edge. I still think he's going to be very, very good. I just don't think he's going to finish as a tight end 1. So to me, it's just a little bit of a. Who did he just take? DJ Moore.
Yeah,
Team 3. I like it so far.
Team 3 is fantasy Twitter. I feel like personified right now. They're checking
everybody. It's a new sexy thing. The 0 RBs. Not taking any early, and given just as much explosive. On the outside with Jefferson, Pittman, and Moore. You're talking about 3 alphas, 3 guys who are in great positions this year. So I don't blame the start at all. They definitely have a plan and they're sticking to it.
One of my favorite things here is I'm meeting so many people. Everyone's been fantastic, like meeting all the drafters here. But all the guys who are like telling me they're talking, I've been coming here since 08 or whatever, since I've been going 20 plus years. And they're all like, and then the draft strategy pops up and they're like, 0 running back. I'm never doing that. Like they're hardcore.
Some of the old school guys won't even think about it. They won't even consider it. It's a new school type of thing.
Yep.
It's a younger generation thing. You do not see guys who are, let's just say, 40 plus. You're not seeing them do 0 RB. They're getting their RB and then they're figuring it out.
What I do think, though, as we said, this is like kind of the isolated high society league for those who are just tuning in, $10,000 entry. But the key with it, you see running backs going in those first 2 rounds, I would say, kind of earlier than maybe expected, and then we'll get a receiver run. But comparatively to main event football guys, when you have a heavy yellow to start, it's a little different in this league. Obviously, we saw seven running backs go in the first 10 picks, which
is
surprising. All of our streams. Yeah. That little run, recapping so far what we have in the 3rd round: AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Travis Etienne, Cortland Sutton, Mike Evans. Really, that DJ Moore, Etienne, Sutton run. It was just, again, another all the trendy guys out there. Etienne round 3 early. I know you're not going to knock that at all because he's your guy.
Nope.
Debo. Wow, 3-7. I can't. That's
the fall of Debo. He's another guy that has not been popular in the bigger high stakes fantasy circles this year. It's a very, very small margin of people that like him. So him going here doesn't surprise me whatsoever. I mean, I'm just not on him this year. He could come back and bite me because he's extremely talented. Obviously, you saw it last year what he could do. But something about Debo this year with the new quarterback with Lance, a guy who's going to take a lot more of them rushing touchdowns than Lance. Ayuk emerging a little bit. I just feel like Debo is just not for me.
We've talked about Debo, but at some point, because I was a little off him too, for this kind of the same reasons, concerns about quarterback. Maybe he expressed that he doesn't really want to play running back. Obviously, his target share and usage in the second half paled in comparison to what he did in the first half in terms of receiving. But I think at some point I wonder to myself, am I overthinking it? Like, this is a guy who doesn't need a lot of touches to generate points. And I think that's something that we underrate when talking about Debo, is he could have 6 touches and a couple of them go for 40 plus because he's dynamic.
100%. He's that dynamic. I mean, he's an outstanding football player. You saw last year, I mean, he won people a ton of money.
Yeah.
But something just has me red flagging him this year. And I'm out on Debo.
It's funny because obviously we love to provide the hard-hitting analysis numbers behind it, but sometimes me and Turper are like, in our gut, I just don't like him, and that should be good enough for you viewers at home to feel.
There's just certain guys that like I said, Joe Mixon. Like, it's not that I don't like the player; it's just like I feel like there's guys I like better. So when it comes to like these drafts, when you're talking about drafting for $350 or $2,000 or $10,000, you got to get your guys. So it's hard to even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, but just for the record, obviously you said he hasn't been popular. Debo at the 3.7, I'm taking that every time, especially looking at, like, I'm taking him over Mike Evans because I've expressed worry about Mike Evans and even Tyreek. DJ Moore and Sutton and Pittman I'm more than fine with. I think those guys are going to be fantastic. Continuing this third round here in the High Society live draft coverage, Debo, as we discussed, Darren Waller goes with the 3.8. Allen Robinson, James Conner, and Keenan Allen. Allen Robinson, obviously, as we said multiple times, the Jalen Waddle, 3.12. Positive reports today. Literally, I think about 20 minutes before this draft started, he was like full participant in practice. We've talked about Tyreek here at times. We talked about Waddle, kind of the injury concerns. With Tua, an unknown quarterback, what he can be. Obviously, Mike McDaniel, you said, tries to be the smartest guy in the room, maybe is the smartest guy in the room. Is there enough touches to go around between Tyreek and Waddle for both of them to like prove that they're both third-round picks?
I definitely think there is. It's just a question of, do you believe in Tua? And if you believe in Tua, or you believe Tua is going to be better than he was last year, then absolutely. I mean, they really don't like Gesicki. That's obvious. I mean, Wilson's a solid wide receiver 3, but that's really it. I feel like the new coach is going to figure out a way to get the ball to his playmakers.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Tua, so I'm not as high on them guys, but I like Waddle just because he's cheaper. Third round, actually in the same round as Hill. Usually he's been going in the 4th.
Yeah, Waddle's ADP main event last 2 days is 4.5.
The Tyreek Hill big playability is, everybody knows it. I mean, you've seen what it was with Mahomes, but Mahomes not there anymore. You've seen plenty of times or plenty of clips that Tua has missed him, and that's only a matter of time till that starts wearing on Tyreek Hill. So, to me, I think there's guys that are just in better spots.
If there's one way to grind our gears on this show, it's Josh Jacobs at the 4.2.
Thanks. I'll tell you right now. We talked about a gift that Jamar Chase had.
Yeah.
At 11. Since then, you've done absolutely everything to just completely ruin it.
What are you doing?
Harris, not a good pick. Allen, not a good pick. Jacobs, just an awful pick. I mean, that is an awful pick. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's $10,000 or $10. Awful pick.
Can you recall on all the streams you done? I'm sure they blurred. No. Is this one of the worst picks we've seen?
It's up there, and we're talking about $10,000. Like
Nick Chubb round 2. Nick Chubb round 2 was one of the worst we saw too. I'm surprised Mike Williams.
But Nick Chubb round 2, I could at least be like, all right.
No, you
Nick
can't.
Chubb's a good football player.
Okay,
I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't. Yeah. But
yeah, Josh Jacobs, I see what you mean.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is an average football player.
I'm kind of shocked. Like, what? Like, we're not seeing him. I've never seen that in like our main event football guy streams, let alone. Wow. You could have waited 2 rounds, and the 6th round, we'd be having the same conversation that you reached. That's crazy.
I mean, I'm shocked by it. It's definitely, through all these streams up there, one of the things that I'm just totally shocked by.
I'm stunned. Running back 17. That's wow. I have no words, so we're not going to talk anymore about it. 2 picks after Nick Chubb and Josh Jacobs lead the fourth. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Mike Williams. Mike Williams in this draft went as wide receiver 19.
It's a good spot.
He was going as wide receiver 16 in the main event. I thought he would be higher in a draft like this, to be honest, because so many people are on him. We both said we're both on him above Keenan. Team 9's having a draft because I'm a big Allen Robinson guy too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, guy we haven't really talked about in a while. Are you on him like many people in the community are? Because people are loving the Lions as a whole this year.
He's been a late riser. Also, you have the Hard Knocks push.
The Hard Knocks bump.
St. Brown was kind of ignored for a while early in drafts, but he's been rising. I've seen him get into the third round in a couple drafts. So I'm definitely a guy that I'm on. Drafted him in a main event last week, so I'm very, very high on him. I just feel like what you saw at the end of the season is what you're going to continue to see. Definitely high on it on St. Brown. I think it's a great pick there.
I think that it's sometimes those guys who have late season pushes, you really need to try and discern, all right, was that for real? No part of me thinks St. Brown's late season just explosion last year was fake. Like that guy, and Jameson Williams isn't going to be there. And even when he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. Amon-Ra St. Brown's the guy. I like the Lions a lot, but I do think they're going to be down in a fair amount of games. I was trying to convince people were talking about the Eliminator Challenge, and I was trying to hype up your Eagles as over the Lions, but people were just like, nah, the Lions are tough.
I'm a little worried about the game personally. I think the Eagles win the game, but I don't think it's as obvious as most people are putting out there. I just think that
dude, you guys are good.
We have a lot of talent, but it's all a road game. I mean, Detroit is going to be hyped up. First game of the season, no matter where you play,
sold out.
Be hyped. Sold out. I saw that today, which they ever put that news out there. It just shows you how bad of an organization they are. Like every home opener should be sold out. Like, what are we even talking about here?
Dude, it is a little bit of in their excitement for revealing that they just showed how bad they've been in a way. Just the idea that they haven't sold out in years. But no, I think the Eagles kill them. I do think it would be funny if the Eagles lose, though, because Eagles Twitter and Philly radio might just
absolutely lose their
season
mind.
over.
Going into the home opener on Monday Night Football against a good Vikings team.
Yeah.
It could be rough. It
I
could
was
be
thinking,
rough, but let's hope we don't get there because I'm going to the home opener. So
it's
going to be 1-0, nice and happy going into it.
It's really funny though, just talking about that home opener for the Eagles. It's really funny that the Vikings and Eagles have like a genuine kind of rivalry from that NFC Championship.
I remember that was hatred.
But it's funny.
They got on the Rocky Steps, did all that stuff. Hatred.
Wow. It's funny though to me that game, we look back, the rivalry started in a game between Case Keenum and Nick Foles.
Literally, Eagles were dogs in that game. Most people didn't think they had a chance. Even Case Keenum was like a hero that year. Nick Foles just came off that awful, awful Falcons game, pretty much the awful final end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then lightning struck, and the rest is history.
The city certainly was going nut at that game. That was the rare time in sports where it felt like the team of destiny didn't work out. Like when the Vikings had the digs down the sideline play, it was like they're winning the Super Bowl. Like there's no way this team doesn't, but lo and behold, they didn't. Continuing kind of fourth round coverage, some surprises that we'll talk about. Obviously, we talked about Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Williams, Dalton Schultz goes fourth round, then Chris Godwin, Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, Terry McLaurin, Dallas Goedert, and Jerry Jeudy. How far does George Kittle fall, do you think, in some of these drafts with the news that he's hurt? And
I would be surprised if he doesn't fall into the sixth round. I mean, especially as we get later. I mean, there's reports out that it's a bad groin injury, so it's a question of could be a big no there. It's a worry, and it's definitely you're spending $10,000. It could be helpful down the stretch, but not for me, man. I mean, I just think the Kittle thing with this kind of money on the line, it's a pass for me.
Yeah, the if I turn your attention to, as people in the chat are noting, Team 8 bully tight end strategy. Is there something of that? No receivers. DeAndre Swift, we both love.
It's not for me. I mean, I understand why they're doing it. Like I said, combined league, you do things a little different. Like Goddard going in the fourth round, you don't see that in a normal, FFPC main event. Every once you might see one pop up, but most of them he's going to be fifth, sixth, round pretty comfortably. In this type of league, you don't want to be starting. I'm going to use a random name, Robert Tonyan, as your tight end because you waited. it's a risky thing, and you're going to be behind the 8 ball because winning games means so much at a confined league.
Yep.
So you gotta take your stands, and if you gotta push a guy up a couple rounds, you gotta do it, because as you can see in this draft right now, nobody's dancing in the dead zone of running backs.
Mm-hmm. Except for
Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs, which is just baffling to me.
Yeah.
Let me get off stream. I didn't know whoever got the 11th pick. I want to know their name. So if I know them, make sure I send them a DM and tell them. Jesus,
I hope you know them. I would love to.
How drunk were you when you made that pick?
Obviously, or this is a trial and error. Our first time doing this. Juju is that team 2 pick in the 5th round. The first name where I was like, I have no idea. At least on my screen,
I can see that.
You can, maybe it's just
I can see it.
My computer screen. Juju goes to team 2. Darnell Mooney, team 1. Obviously, we kind of talked about Javonte, but I love the AJ Brown and Darnell Mooney pairing as their receiving core.
Also, AJ Dillon.
And we talked about last year, so I don't want to kind of bring it up again. Although I realized that when the litany of streams that we do, that we're just going to have to talk about our guys over and over again. AJ Dillon, they honestly have 2 guys who I think rose the most in my rankings throughout the last couple of months, was AJ Dillon and AJ Brown. Because AJ Brown, I had some initial words about Hurst, but I just thought back to he had Tannehill. Tannehill isn't a great quarterback, and
the best friend dynamic, you got that
great
going.
Friends. AJ Brown is a yak monster, and I think that the Eagles are just going to get the ball in his hand, and it's in a weird way. Just also he fits Philly, like not just the city, not just.
He does. He reminds me a lot when they brought T.O. in. I mean, he's been great. All positive reports. You haven't heard a negative thing about him so far. Locker room leader type of guy. So he's definitely some guy that I'm definitely watching, and I'm very excited about.
And by all accounts, healthy offseason for the first time in a while. So
100%. Yeah,
he rose.
He's ready to go. If AJ Brown was 100%, he likely is up there in the Diggs. And there was no injury risk.
Yeah,
he's very much up there in the Diggs, Adams, Lamb category.
There's just any concerns that I saw people have. He's going from the Titans, which are like Eagles are run heavy. So are the Titans. Like he's going to similar.
You ain't paying AJ Brown that kind of money, and you're going to be running the ball 60% of the time.
With I think a better team, a more dynamic offense. He finished in closing in my ranks.
Better play caller, offensive play caller.
Are you a Sirianni guy? I'm assuming you are, because were you
early on? I liked him. Then I started, or when they're ugly in the season.
Yeah,
I started fading out a little bit, but he just seems like he has that like Philly vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
So
he gets the city.
He gets the city, and if you can figure that out in the city and you win, you're going to be a hero. I mean, Doug Peterson he has a statue up. That's all you got to say. I mean, obviously they won a Super Bowl, but
yeah. The
what on earth is Team 6 doing?
5th round underway.
Team dust.
We talked about kind of that running by dead zone when it was coming, and they were avoiding it. Well, now Elijah Mitchell goes off the board. Zeke is off the board. Team 6. I don't mind Zeke at the 5-6 mark and more than 5.
One receiver.
No, I'm not talking about the build. I'm talking about the isolated pick. But no, I have no idea what they're doing.
Zeke in this type of format is not the worst pick out there. I'll say that.
So you hate Zeke, but in your more just whatever your home leagues, isolated leagues, you're more comfortable taking Zeke.
I mean, I still wouldn't take him, but
okay,
it's not a bad pick here. Based off the format, it's not a bad pick because his floor is pretty safe. So, I mean, he's a guy that, like, if you're just trying to win games and like points don't matter in certain, obviously you got to outscore the other person. But in some of these leagues where you could be 3-8 and have the most points and move on to the thing, that's not a case in these leagues or in confined leagues. So, Elliott is a better pick in this format. Still not a good pick, but a better pick.
Putting you on the spot, Team 6 or Team 11? Josh Jacobs is the worst pick of this draft, but
gun to my head, man. I'll still say Team 11 is the worst.
Yeah,
the only thing keeping them up is Jamar Chase. I mean, that was a gift, and they had a gift.
Oh, did I just hear what I think I heard? Not in a bad way. I'm just.
I don't think you did.
Did I?
It depends what you think is a bad thing. I saw the next couple picks, and I don't think they're anything. I mean,
here we go.
It's not the best pick, but.
No, I was just I was intrigued to see in this league where it went, and Dameon Pierce goes in the 5th. I mean, I don't think we've had a stream. He was officially named the starter. I was wondering, he goes at the 5-9. I thought he was going to go higher. I thought leading up to Sunday, the stock was just going to continue to boom. Like, I thought people in this, like, I just thought people would be in on him over like the Elijah Mitchells and even the Dillons, because Dillon's in a timeshare. So 5'9" is honestly not as crazy as I thought.
It's not the craziest pick. I mean, it's especially with that build. I mean, you're starting Pierce, you're starting Barkley. You're going to start him pretty much every week. You got 3 very good receivers. I like what they did.
Dameon Pierce has been going at the 5'6", so it's actually a little later. DK Metcalf, first off, before we start, Dave Gladstone in the chat, loving Team 7. I know you're not a Kelsey guy and not a Debo guy. The 4 receivers, I'm going to be honest, in my opinion, I love CD as a pick. Debo at that range, I'm okay with. Godwin, I'm iffy on, but I kind of come around on DK in the 5th where he's been going. Could very well be a league winner because DK might be quarterback proof. We haven't really necessarily seen it yet.
He might be quarterback proof, but the thing that fears me is that he should have a lot of positive game scripts going for him because Seattle should be behind a lot. So that he has going for him. But like, I just feel like teams are going to make them run the football and they're going to find a way to double DK. I mean, they have no third receiver. Tight end, they clearly hate Noah Fant. So I think he's going to get a lot of roll double coverage. And then we've seen DK have a little meltdown in the field multiple times. And he's going to have a lot of them with Geno Smith and Drew Lock throwing the ball. So I'm just not on DK. I own him in a couple best ball drafts. Nothing crazy, just because you don't want to get burned with his obviously big playability. But he's definitely a type of guy that I think is going to be really, really hard to know when to start.
I just think at the 5'7", though. I mean, also
it's not a bad pick. It's not a bad pick at the value. I think it's fair.
I guess my point is we haven't talked about him too much. I genuinely think that he could end up being massive for teams. I looked it up. With Geno Smith in his career, he's played 5 games, and he's averaging 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown per game. With Geno, I think he it's not as though, which is maybe surprising why he's so low. I know he was iffy at times last year, but he got paid. He seems comfortable where he's at, and they're going to be chucking the ball around. I guess it's almost like a realization live on air for me right now that DK maybe should be going a bit higher than he has been because the game script's going to be perfect, and he's shown that he's been really good with Geno Smith. So
I just hate Pete Carroll, man. I just everything about him. Like, I feel like Russ could have had a lot better seasons. Obviously with the receivers. Last year was a disaster. I mean, people saying Russ is falling off a cliff. We'll see this year. They're my Super Bowl pick, the Denver Broncos. But I just Pete Carroll, just nothing about him. His boring offense, his boring offensive coordinators. He brings to the table. It's not for me.
George Kittle, our question was answered. He goes at the 5'11" mark, essentially the 6th round, close to it, like you said. The injury concerns are there. I believe he was the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 7th tight end off the board. So even with the injury concerns, I do wonder if at this point it's just the opportunity, though, and his upside is still too much to pass up compared to some of the other tight end options. 5th round.
Yeah, I understand it. But Cam Akers right after, this team just keeps getting worse.
Yeah, the Cam Akers. What was crazy is at the very start, Cam Akers was going third round. There was the love there, but the apathy that's the word I said.
He is hated now. He is hated. Deontay Johnson's another guy. That's a good value there. Not the biggest Deontay Johnson guy,
but another guy who's hurt, another guy he's been dealing with a shoulder injury.
Might not play week 1.
And even if he does it sounds like one of those injuries where he's going to be playing through something, and we don't know how long he's going to be dealing.
You don't realize how scared people get at week 1 until you get closer to these drafts.
Yeah.
You realize, hey, I got to put a lineup in tonight. I got to put a lineup in on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I got to start somebody. So it's different in basketball where you can be like, all right, he's not playing a week, fine. One of the other guys will score for you and be fine. But when you got to actually place a lineup in, it's a whole different dynamic, especially with this week 1 stuff. I mean, you've seen over the years, it makes things a lot more difficult.
I had said on our preview show, go check it out on our YouTube page right now, that Lamar Jackson would be my MVP pick, but I haven't heard from you. Lamar Jackson, this goes as a 2nd quarterback off the board. What are your thoughts on Lamar this year? Are you expecting a massive year? I want to hear what guys are you drafting over him? What quarterbacks are you drafting over Lamar?
Josh Allen.
That's it? Okay.
That's probably it. I mean, I just feel like the upside that he possesses is too much.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously with the rushing ability, the questions with Dobbins, I just feel like Jackson, it gives you the biggest ceiling pretty much of anybody not named Josh Allen. I mean, like I said, I have him extremely high. I have Hurts extremely high. Russell Wilson extremely high. I have all those guys I just mentioned over Herbert. and Patrick Mahomes.
If we're looking at Team 7 here, because it was getting some love in the chat, they're going. They went Kelsey, and they're just going zero running back and just hammering receiver. We started talking about DK with it, but if the receivers that they've drafted? I know you're not in on really Debo. What are your thoughts on Team 7 right now?
I mean, Team 7, I feel like they're pushing it. I feel like they're getting a little cute when it comes to this type of. You're going to be who are you starting a running back?
Yeah,
in a best ball build, in a football guys build, I guess you can get away with this start, but you have to start 2 running backs. And right now, I mean, yeah, there's a couple guys that are still out there that are potential, but the Devonta Smith pick, I feel like, is a little excess. I feel like Mahomes would have been a better fit right there, to fit with Kelsey. I think it makes more sense. Mahomes didn't get drafted. I can't see her head.
No, he has not got drafted yet. And also just the Devonta Smith pick, I don't know how I'm not as I think part of he's dropped on my board because of how much I'm loving AJ Brown. I think it's going to be a very heavy to one receiver. But if you're going to go 5 straight receivers after going Kelsey, Elijah Moore was right there. Like I'm going to give a clap for Team 6 because they had a great pick.
And you have Joe Flacco, who literally just feeds him the ball every single down. Going to start for 4 weeks. It makes too much sense. I don't get it. Team 6 is getting out of the doghouse with that pick.
That's my guy. Although he's my guy, and I have him. I'm only in 2 leagues. I only do 2 leagues because I like being able to focus on those 2, and then with work and everything.
Of course.
Those two leagues, Elijah Moore is not starting because my lineup side did such a fantastic job.
I have a couple leagues that are the same way too. I'm like,
and it's tough because I'm
Marquise Brown or is it Elijah Moore? And it's like,
and I don't know what to do.
It's like I see the shootout, and I also see still Joe Flacco against the Ravens, who are going to be pissed off coming off that year last year. Defense is going to be hungry. I could see that game just getting out of control really quick and being like a 35-13 game, and Elijah Moore just doesn't deliver.
In my one league, I'm like, it's a 2 receiver, 2 flex. I'm not starting Elijah Moore as much as I love him over Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, Cortland Sutton, and Allen Robinson this week. And I just feel so bad because I'm like, this is disrespectful to Elijah Moore. I should DM him an apology that he's not starting because he's going to go off. But just that's the hardest part about fantasy. Sometimes it's not like the trades. It's not the draft. It's when you have 2 great players and you just don't know which one to start, and it's just going to burn you no matter what you do.
Absolutely.
The sports betting man a while back in the comments, I'm just looking through them now. He also was
my guy Lance.
He was saying to me,
"Make sure you interview Lance while you're out there. He's a great time. He's probably drinking straight through the weekend."
I will do my best. He was saying that when there's that just no reason why, the gut feeling of avoid a player, it's a subconscious attempt to avoid an in-season injury. So maybe Terp Mixon for you is just he's bound to get hurt this year.
Maybe. I hope he's right because I don't own a lot of them. I don't think I own him on one FFPC best ball. Definitely no main events or any of the other bigger leagues that I'm in. So hopefully it doesn't come back and bite me.
Yeah. Continuing the 6th round, Chase Edmonds, TJ Hawkins. Well, I don't think I started from the start now that I think, but again, my scouting report, I'm terrible with these. 5th, let's recap the 6th round. Breece Hall, Cam Akers, Christian Kirk goes in the 6th. You've been saying we've been on his stock has been rising the more and more positive press comes out with him. Deontay, really good value despite the shoulder injury. Justin Herbert, Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore, Chase Edmonds, TJ Hawkinson, J.K. Dobbins, and there goes Patrick Mahomes. Terp, in a format like this, is stacking as important? Like I'm sure some people.
I don't think it's as important. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think it's like the end all be all type of situation, but I think it still helps you. I mean, if you draft Travis Kelce in the 1st round, what does he need to be successful? Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes, and you have a chance to take him there instead of taking Devonta Smith. It just makes more sense to me.
Patrick Mahomes, as we said, goes at the 211. Brandon Ayuk closed out the round, followed up with Jalen Hurts, where maybe the quarterbacks are going to start going there. J.K. Dobbins, injury concerns left and right. But are you going to buy him at all in kind of these middle rounds, just if he can get healthy? Because we saw him his rookie year when healthy was not, I wouldn't necessarily call him a force. I think it's a bit of exaggeration, but in that Ravens offense, he was fantastic and looked as though he was going to assert himself. I know there's all the injury concerns, but mid rounds, could he come back and really help teams late in the year?
6th round, J.K. Dobbins, and there's so many questions with him right now. If you're getting him in the 8th round, fine. 7th round, okay. But with the team, the way it has set up, I feel like that team went from really, really good to just kind of like taking a step back. I feel like the Goddard was a little bit of a reach. Mitchell, I'm not a fan of. J.K. Dobbins has questions. So, like, by the time J.K. Dobbins is back and relevant, maybe he's back earlier than I think, but I just feel like that team's going to be behind the 8 ball because Mitchell, you still have some questions. Obviously, with Kyle Shanahan, just like giving the ball to the hot guy, and clearly that was him last year. But what could happen this year is totally different. So, to me, I don't like that pick.
I'm going to be honest. Team 3 had an unbelievably great start. I shouted them out, but the last 3 rounds,
Team one so far is my favorite team.
McCaffrey, Javonte, AJ Brown.
There's a couple teams that are, in my opinion, way above everybody else.
And share those teams. So you mentioned Team 1.
So Team 1, I like Team 2. I like what they did. I have no issues with that. Like getting Mahomes with Juju. It's a smart way to do it. Obviously, the explosiveness with Higgins and Hill. I like Judy this year. I know a lot of people hate him, but I don't. Drake London, clearly the number 1 guy, even though I'm not the biggest fan of him. He's definitely a guy I've been coming around on. So Team 1 and 2 are very, very good, in my opinion. Team 3 fell off. Team 4, it's okay. I'm not going to say. I mean, obviously they got ATN, Bateman, who I like a lot, Cooper Kupp. I'm not the biggest Fournette guy this year, and TJ Hawkinson has always been a pass for me. Next after that,
Team 5,
solid, real solid.
Yeah.
Eckler, Mixon. Mixon got a good value there. You got Sutton, Davis, Marquise Brown. Chase Edmonds is a guy I like a ton. So that's definitely a good team. 6, Elijah Moore saved them from being just a total dumpster fire. 7, we talked about already. I think they should have took Mahomes over Devonta Smith. Besides that, the receivers aren't my favorite, but I don't mind the structure. They're definitely different.
Need to see what running backs they get before kind of giving. It's very dependent on what running backs they grab, because they can get some value still on the board. But yeah,
I don't personally like 8. I mean, I don't like the bully tight end build.
No.
I just feel like there's too many holes. 1 receiver through 6 rounds is really dangerous, especially with all the big payability that they're not taking in these rounds. What do we got? Team 9, very good. Like
I
that.
love
Like
Team
the Deontay
9.
Johnson. I like the Deontay Johnson value. Definitely right up there with 1 and 2, in my opinion, so far. Team
the only
10,
thing is just not on Pierce. That's a personal thing. I'm just
I'm not really the highest on Pierce because I think they're going to be very, very bad, and I feel like he can't catch the ball, so he's not going to be on passing downs and when they're behind. So that's going to take away a lot of his value. Team 10, I like Team 10. I mean, I'm not a Connor guy, but starting Kamara, Cook, getting St. Brown, Christian Kirk, who I like a lot. Team 11, no need to talk about them. Team 12. Yeah, not really want to talk about them either.
The Team 10, we're very anti James Conner, and like in our heads, I was just like, yeah, right. But to give like a differing point of view, there are a lot of people out there who love James Conner currently in that late third, and I've been telling everyone, like, you get this guy. I just feel as though the touchdown regression is going to come. He barely eclipsed 1,000 total yards. He caught everything thrown his way. That's the first year he's healthy in so long. I feel my thing is I pick and choose what injury risk I want to consider. With Christian McCaffrey, it's like he'll be fine. He'll
be fine. No worries.
Guaranteed
James
to
Conner,
get hurt.
I'm the same way when it comes to certain players. It's like no matter what happens, I'm taking him. I like Christian McCaffrey. I'm taking him. But guys like James Conner, as you said it perfectly, are just like, I just feel like they're a little less wiggle room with them.
Yeah. Looking at this 7th round, Jalen Hurts, Drake London, Tony Pollard, Kyler Murray, Adam Thielen, Amari Cooper, and she's blocking me, so let's go. Amari Cooper. No,
Amari Cooper. What is the guy doing? That's terrible.
Alan Lazard
That's
and
terrible.
Kadarius.
I don't even care about Alan Lazard. Like, it makes
which one? Which pick are you hating on? Lazard?
Team 7. You have 5 receivers. This is not best ball. What are you doing?
And it's
you have to start people. It's you took Lazard.
No. That is crazy that they're continuing this strategy that you're a little off on. And not only do they double down, they say, Terp, we're taking your least favorite player in fantasy football. Is Lazard your least favorite guy, or is because you don't like Chubb? You hate Zeke.
If I had to rank my top 3 right now, it would be number 1 by a large margin, Alan Lazard. Number 2, Nick Chubb. Number 3, I'll take my bias for Zeke out. I won't put him there.
Okay.
It's probably Debo.
Wow. No Dalton Schultz?
Dalton Schultz is close. I'm trying to keep any Cowboys bias out of these top three.
Right.
I mean, they would definitely be in the top 10. I don't have many of the guys that I mentioned. I just feel like Debo in the second round is just not for me. Debo in the third round is not the worst value. I know we talked about it. I don't like the player this year, but I feel like if you're spending this kind of money, if you didn't like him in the second round, you ain't taking him in the third round, no matter what the value is.
Terp, I'm loving Team 9. They just take Ramondre Stevenson. Obviously, I'm not the biggest Pierce guy, but they took him at ADP, the upside to be an RB1 on the team. He looked great in preseason, but I love Ramondre more than Dameon Pierce. And
1, 2, 9, and 10 for me so far. I mean, like I said, there's definitely teams that on the draft board, which means absolutely nothing when it comes down to it, are way above everybody else. It should be the favorites in this league, and I'd be very surprised. I'd be very, very, very surprised if team 1 or 2 doesn't come pretty high in this league.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough in a league like this versus to like guarantee a finish versus something like maybe best ball. But I agree. 1, 2, and 9. I'm very confident in their draft so far. Are you in I can go on and on about Ramondre. Are you in on him as much as I am?
Very high on him. I just had a main event where I built Christian McCaffrey with Stevenson as my 1-2, and then pretty much just punted the position after that. So I'm very high on him. He's a guy that I'll be targeting in my main events tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm my reasoning with Ramondre is, again, we talked about it last week. It's scary that Bill's hyping him as much as he is because it feels like it's a trick, but Bill Belichick seems to love him. He was great last year with kind of more limited opportunity, and down the stretch when it kind of became a running back by committee with Harris, they both were able to produce, and more importantly, I think Stevenson was able to produce, and no Ty Montgomery, so he's getting the passing down work too, and he's a bigger
back. Ty Montgomery, no James White to worry about. They clearly are off on a rookie. I don't see Pierre Strong being a worry, so that's definitely an interesting thing to watch. It's still Bill Belichick, so you got to worry about that. It's still Patriots offensive coordinators who are a worry, but I'm a big Stevenson guy this year. I agree.
Hear me out. Let's say it was still Harris and Stevenson. Same stats, same situation from last year. If it wasn't the Patriots, I think people would be higher on Stevenson. They would see, Harris was so dependent on touchdowns. Stevenson's getting the passing down work. Stevenson's getting all this praise in training camp, and people will be way more in. But being a Patriot running back scares some people off, and that's where we're getting this like 7th round ADP despite the potential. And I was just hyping them up. They go Antonio Gibson here in the 8th. Don't love that, but again,
don't hate it. I mean, I don't hate it. Upside for at least a couple of weeks.
At least a couple of weeks. Antonio Gibson is. I think we have the same conversation every stream because Gibson's going like this between 7th and 9th round. It's kind of varied, but at least for again, sometimes it's about getting a hot start in your leagues. Like we talk about how the Thursday game makes people bump up. It's kind of what Antonio Gibson is like he's the running back there for those opening weeks, and that obviously could change, but he might be able to put up points. He's playing Jacksonville week 1. Could be a time to shine. He's healthy by all accounts. I like teams. I'm not in on Gibson necessarily, but I'm liking what Team 9's doing, as you said, Team 1 and 2. Looking further in this 8th round here, Chris Olave, wide receiver 43, Russell Wilson, the 7th quarterback off the board, and then a little running back run here. We got David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson, and Kareem Hunt just went.
This guy's going to take his first running back here, it looks like. The question is, who is it?
Yeah, because the guys that I like, Stevenson, Tony Pollard, even I'm a Clyde guy just because I can't.
The one he takes is not a bad one. So
Rashad Penny? Yeah. I mean.
But he has now 2 Seattle Seahawks. You don't want that.
We talked about it in, I believe it was Football Guys, but I want to see if your answers changed in kind of a different league setup. Should Team 7 later on be targeting Kenneth Walker in case anything happens to Penny, or no?
You're talking about 3 Seattle Seahawks then, so no.
I
mean, you have every week have to start. Yeah, I love DK Metcalf as a talent and all that good stuff, but you have to start. You definitely have to start Penny. You have no other choice. Also him, and then you have Metcalf. So I don't know. This team started off really, really well, and I feel like they're just the last 3 picks, with Metcalf, with Smith, and with Lazard before Penny. I just feel like could have been 2 guys different, and this team would have been a lot higher up in my opinion.
And what is so interesting about fantasy is this GM, I'll call him, clearly came into this draft with this strategy in mind. He believes in it, and he's probably happy with it because they feel as though this is the best way to do it. So, I mean, can't fault them for doing what they think is best. Obviously, we disagree with it. We disagree with a couple of maybe the guys who went, but I mean, this is the new wave strategy. But I think sometimes when you're in leagues where maybe you could get taken advantage of almost sometimes with a new wave strategy, right? It might be able to work with different formats, but something like this,
you definitely could. Sometimes a new type of strategy gets you in trouble. It's just a question of. Sorry, I'm just responding to a text message real quick.
No, you're straight. So you're a guy who does hundreds of leagues, right? So obviously you go into some leagues like this is what I want to do to like diversify my portfolio.
Of course,
but in a league like this, let's say you're in this.
I'm getting my guys. There's no questions about it.
You're just getting your guys, but do you have a kind of planned strategy of like you get your pick 15 minutes before the draft? You're like, okay, I think I have a plan. I want to go hammer receiver early, or are you very much I'm gonna just see how the draft board plays out and just try and get my guys?
You always have to see how the draft board. You can never go in with a plan. Like if you're picking number 1 or number 12, I feel like you can formulate some sort of plan because you kind of have an idea of how things are going to go. I mean, you kind of have an idea of who's going to be there and what guys you're going to be able to choose from, and if you have to reach for guys. But if you're in the middle, like what's there to plan? You're going to be sitting there and saying, "Hey, I want Justin Jefferson at 5," and let's just say Justin Jefferson goes 4, and you're just all messed up and like it makes no sense. Just sit there, let the draft play out. When you're on the clock, make the best decision for your team and go from there.
Continuing this 8th round, Rashad Penny went to Team 7, their first running back. Devin Singletary, Joe Burrow, Cordero Patterson, Zach Ertz, Team 3 double taps tight end with Goddard, and then Dawson Knox, and then Naheem Hines. Naheem Hines, a running back 35. We've talked about how
I think I know who Team 1 is, and if I'm pretty sure they're destroying this draft right now. I'd be very, very surprised if they're not leading this pack. I mean, there's 2 great picks right there. They're just they're zigging when everybody's zagging.
Yeah. And then they follow it up. They haven't put it up, but we can say they went with George Pickens in the 9th round. Team 1 having a really good draft. We like Team 2. Miles Sanders, I think at some point, as you've mentioned, at some point 9th round, the value, the upside that he presents in that Eagles offense, they don't seem to love him. But if he can get someone a workload, he's a big play threat. He just needs to get healthy. But I want to, before maybe you can comment on Sanders, I do want to ask, another guy we haven't talked about a lot. Dawson Knox was very touchdown dependent last year, but talk about like the best friend element. I mean, Josh Allen and him
just got paid too. That's always
great
a good
friends.
Thing. On an offense like that, they show you they believe in you.
It just also feels as though in some ways the Gabe Davis hype has lowered Knox's, but we haven't talked about Knox at all. He went here at the 8-11 mark. Give me just your overall feelings on Dawson.
I'm not on Knox this year. I just feel like he was too touchdown dependent last year. I feel like that goes somewhere else this year. Gabe Davis. But I just feel like at this kind of value, it's not the worst pick in the world. I mean, with the way this team's structured, obviously with the anchor, running back with Jonathan Taylor, it makes a ton of sense to make sure my computer's not going to die. It makes a ton of sense to have Taylor. And then we talked about Miles Sanders a little bit ago. It makes this is a good pick for Miles Sanders. Running back 2, they say he's going to be back. He's going to be 100%, all that good stuff. So it makes this team very, very good too. It's not up in one level, in my opinion, but I feel like it's a very good team. I'm gonna grab my charger. I'll be back in 30 seconds.
Because I don't want you freezing again. That would be bad. Last time Terp froze on my first ever stream, and I was like a deer in the headlights for 5 minutes. Looking at the start of this 9th round here at the FFPC High Society League, drafted live in Las Vegas, a $10,000 entry. 9th round so far: George Pickens, Miles Sanders, Michael Carter, Robert Woods, and then Cole Kmet. Terp's guy, Cole Kmet. When Terp gets back, we'll talk about that pick. 12 teams drafting. Again, as I said, $10,000 entry. I believe over roughly 8 or 9 of them are drafting here live in Las Vegas. A couple of them are online. Just reviewing kind of the drafts so far that we've seen. Me and Terp have talked a lot about Team 7. They went the 0 running back strategy to the max. They went Kelsey round 1 and then followed up with 6 straight receivers before drafting their first running back in Rashad Penny. Some other highlights from this draft, or maybe we should call them lowlights. Josh Jacobs went at the 4-2 mark, which just left me and Turpin complete and utter shock. And then other than that, though, not too many crazy picks. We see George Kittle with the injury. He's fallen a bit. He falls to the 5'11" mark. There, J.K. Dobbins, another guy dealing with injury. He's still going in the 6th round. But other than that, we saw some value receiver-wise early on in this draft. As you can see, 7 running backs were taken in the first 10 picks, which is unlike that we've seen in our past draft. Jamar Chase falls to the lowest he's gone when compared to the main event. He falls to pick 11. And then we were also talking about that 2nd and 3rd round. We saw a lot of fantasy Twitter favorites here in the 2nd, 3rd.
I have returned.
Corlin and Terp, you've returned. I was just kind of reviewing the draft, some of the highlights, lowlights that we've seen. I was going to talk about someone with you, and I was waiting for you to come back, and I already forgot. Oh, Cole Kmet, tight end 11. That's who it was. I want to talk about Cole Kmet. Are you surprised that Cole Kmet is still getting drafted behind guys like Dawson Knox, Zach Ertz, and the like? Because there's 2 guys, and Kmet's one of them, and the other for me hasn't been drafted here. Pat Freiermuth, I'm stunned that their ADP isn't tight end like in the top 10. I think they should.
I'm very surprised too, especially Zach Ertz with the questions with his calf. I just feel like Zach Ertz is going to be really good for 6 weeks, or he should be very good for 6 weeks. And if he's not playing a week or 2 weeks or whatever, that's a big worry for a guy that you're taking, right in the 8th round range over a guy like Kmet, who's, we talk about target share and all this good stuff, but it's him and Mooney. Yeah, somebody could emerge, but I don't see that guy right now or anytime soon. So Justin Fields is going to be looking at them and looking at them often. So big fan of Kmet, obviously.
You're a big fan of Kmet. I'll talk a little bit about the Muth. He was a rookie. We always talk about the rookie tight end struggles. Pat Freiermuth, because Kyle Pitts got all the buzz in, Pat Freiermuth had a really underrated rookie season, I think. And the quarterback plays improved. And the Pittsburgh is going to spread the ball around. And I also think that he's going to be a nice target for Mitch Trubisky in dump downs, and a rookie quarterback in Pickett. He's going to be the safety valve there. I think he's going to get a lot of touchdowns there. I know they have Claypool, they have Pickens, Deontay, but again, Deontay's dealing with the shoulder injury. He's questionable for week 1. If his stats, I just think Pat Freiermuth isn't getting maybe as much buzz and love as he should be. Just reviewing because they haven't filled in the board yet. Team 5, their pick in this 9th round was Cole Kmet, who we've been talking about. And then Team 7 there gets their 2nd running back, Damian Harris. Touchdown regression, I think, is coming for Damian Harris. I was big on Damian Harris last year, but I think the touchdown regression is coming.
So was I. I definitely agree with
Stevenson's going to get more work, as we discussed earlier. This is what you do when you hammer a receiver so early like they did. It's your running backs are going to be Damian Harris and Rashad Penny. We like the Penny pick. You're on the board there. James Cook goes right after Darrell Henderson. 2 guys who are going to be in kind of the running back committee, but explosive offenses. Are you taking Cook and Henderson just over Damian Harris in this situation, or are you maybe going with a guy who really has maybe a better touchdown floor in Harris?
I am. I definitely feel like both those guys are higher upside targets, especially with this uncertainty with Cam Akers, with Henderson, and Cook being, the rookie, I guess, in Buffalo. So you got to worry there. But I just don't feel like you're going to get – Damian Harris was perfect last year, and I just don't see it happening again. I think Stevenson is a much better player. I feel like they realize that. Again, you have the Bill Belichick worry, but I'm going to put that aside. I just feel like it's Stevenson's year to take that next step. He showed enough flashes last year. I feel like Damian Harris in this type of format, every draft pick doesn't have to be an explosive, type of thing. Like normally, like in basketball and stuff like that, you're looking for the spike week type of things. But I just don't think Damian Harris is going to give you much this year.
But when you're looking at this team, they as you said, James Cook, Henderson, maybe not even Henderson because that does seem more, but James Cook could really explode. You have to take upside, like heavy upside at your running backs, because if you're trying to win this league, Damian Harris isn't going to.
You're way behind the 8 ball at running back as it is. You need Rashad Penny to be the end of the year Rashad Penny.
Yep.
You need Damian Harris to be, last year Damian Harris. And that's a wild unknown on both players. So you really have no idea on both of them if that's even possible. So they're your starting running backs week 1. That's not for me.
Yeah, we said it. Just Damian Harris feels, especially with Stevens, it's just going to be entirely touchdown dependent. And don't like that Patriots offense. Might be down in some games. They've looked terrible. I don't know if I'm going to buy into that. Michael Gallup comes here at the end of round 9. He has been going at the 11-3 mark, maybe been so nearly a full like round and a half early. But we were saying on our last live stream that I'm Gallup's another guy who's grown on me a lot, just because the Cowboys really might not have a ton of receiving options. I think they're going to go down in games. We're both off the Cowboys this year as a team. So Gallup is a guy, again, this team, you're looking at 11. We didn't love their build. We don't really want to talk about them, but I do like the pick there because you're not needing him right away, and I think he's going to become an important.
I also
fantasy
like
piece.
the pick. I also love the Team 12 pick too, or not Team 12. Take that back. Team 10 pick with Treylon Burks.
I mean, we love this is a pro Burks podcast, not even a podcast.
The David Montgomery pick, I don't really understand.
But 8th round,
because you have 3 stud running backs. You know, for some people, what do you need a 4th for? I mean, I think that's just a little.
But we talk about how much we worry about James Conner.
Quarterback.
But we talk about our injury concern with James Conner. Dalvin's going to miss weeks. He doesn't play 7.
There's no guarantee David Montgomery's going to every sign points to Herbert being the guy.
I'm just saying 8th round, David Montgomery.
It's not the worst pick in the world. I saw him going the 3rd round of a main event the other night. I was threw up.
I need to check in on my team that I'm loving. Team 9, I'm liking, but the Henderson pick, as much as I don't love Henderson, I drafted him once just because it was super late. I'm like, all right, at this pick, he does present upside. I don't think Team 9 really needed that pick there with 4 running backs, and they have no tight end, no quarterback. So my team
like
of the draft
would have
so
been
far
a better pick.
Yeah.
I feel like Derek Carr, which they might still get, Trey Lance. I mean,
I'm surprised Trey Lance hasn't been Trey Lance has been kind of here. I'm gonna go look at his ADP on main event.
There's a lot of guys who don't have quarterbacks yet, which is very surprising.
Trey Lance has been going as QB9. He hasn't gone yet here. He's been kind of consistently falling into double-digit rounds sometimes. Maybe I'm just too caught up in my Trey Lance love, but I've said it a couple times for a couple of guys. I said it with Freiermuth. I said one other guy, and it was Ramondre, was the other guy. Lance is another guy. We've seen guys rise. Shocked that Trey Lance isn't one of them. Is it just the unknowns with Garoppolo?
Yeah, the Garoppolo signing, I kind of just put the halt on everything. I feel like Lance was getting up there in the 7th round of drafts. 8th round of drafts, he was getting in the Hurts category, the Burrow, the Kyler Murray, area. And I feel like that's just totally stopped because people think Garoppolo, if the 49ers go back to Garoppolo and without injury, obviously, that's whatever. But if they just go back to him, I would be shocked. Like absolutely shocked because it makes no sense. Like
no sense at all. Lance played good last year. And if Lance is as good as people are thinking he's going to be, I don't see him getting benched. Like how bad is he going to have to be to
He would have to be like, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but he would have to be like all-time bad. They traded picks to get him. He's the guy.
They fully invested him this offseason. Like every
interview,
everything
has been around Trey Lance this, Trey Lance that. If Jimmy Garoppolo sees the field this year, it's either in mop-up duty or because Trey Lance got hurt.
Yep, I would agree.
If they're bad, why are you taking Trey Lance out? You just let him play through it. If he's good, you're never playing Jimmy G. So why does the Jimmy G thing makes no sense to me as an organization.
I just think you can't overreact to it. Like just trust. Like it's literally just trust that Trey Lance.
I trust my eyes with Trey Lance. I think he was the best quarterback coming out last year. I stand by that over Trevor Lawrence. So it really just comes down to, why is he going in the 10th round? And the answer is I don't really know.
I believe our draft is paused, not because of anything going on. I believe there's just a little break here in the draft. I thought it was after round 10. It looks like it's after round 9. Terp, I've kind of said I do like Team 9, the Henderson pick. We've hyped up 1, 2, and 9 a lot. Through 9 rounds, that's a pause. Your favorite team so far, is it Team 1?
Team 1 is definitely my favorite by a good margin. Team 2, very close behind. I also like 9 and 10. Besides that, there's a couple teams that are okay. They've made some good picks, but no, they're clearly my top 4.
Yep, and those for just joining us. Me and Terp are covering the High Society live draft here in Vegas. $10,000 entry fee per team. We're on a little bit of break midway through the draft. We talked about our favorite teams. The least favorite pick is always going to be Josh Jacobs.
It's not even close, really. I mean, there's some picks that are very suspect, but the Josh Jacobs picks you could get Josh Jacobs where you took Cam Akers easily. You probably could even get him like when you took Russell Wilson if you really want to be like specific.
Yeah. His draft stock has been falling. Just going back to that, we didn't say it. Josh Jacobs has been going at the 7-10 mark. in main events the last 2 days. And he went 4-2 here in this $10,000 entry league. Terp, we've talked extensively about how the Thursday night game, but I had one more question about it. In a draft like this that's literally tipping off hours before kickoff, have you seen, like, do players playing in Thursday get a slight bump just because people want to get on them just to watch it and in hopes that they break out, or are they still pretty much going at ADP as they were?
I mean, I still think they're going at ADP. I mean, Allen Robinson's been moving up in drafts, especially late. I mean, a lot of people are thinking he's going to be, very, very highly integrated in that offense with Sean McVay.
No worries. We have low power on the phone. That's why, Bulky. That's why we have the draft board.
Seriously, that's why we have the draft board.
I don't know how the stream works. It's not like whatever phone you have up there. It looked like it had the low power thing.
I can go, Terp, if I can go check up on the phone to see where coverage is during this break. If I trust you to stay alone on the stream here for a couple of seconds, we'll do Bulky.
You never know with me. Anything's possible.
Okay, just don't say anything too crazy. Bulky making his live stream return in the background right there. I'm gonna go check out the phone.
Why did you get rid of that beard, bud? I mean, that thing is awful.
Bulky, the people want to know why you got rid of the beard still.
So
you look
twofold.
awful.
Dave and Alex did not tell me to, but they nudged me in that direction.
Why?
And
is there a reason?
I did it. I grew it out because I didn't have to shave every day, because I was lazy, and then it became to the point where it got so long that I had to oil it and way too much maintenance.
That's fair, but I want to know why Dave and Alex tried to get you to do it.
So
why did Dave and Alex try to push
Alex want it off? Because the people
they didn't want it off. They nudged me in the direction of wanting.
Why? They thought you were going to scare people away?
The people are wondering, like, are you on a leave of absence from, like, your live shows because of the beard?
Yeah. Well,
you have to be losing ratings.
The beard. Once I shaved off my beard, I don't know who I am anymore. So I don't know if I'll ever be on the stream. This might be my retirement from the stream. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Your family must be scared of you.
But I clearly do not feel like myself, and I'm going to try to find myself in Sin City this week. Okay. So that's the plan.
Good luck.
Famous last words right there.
Good luck.
Terp, I'm going to leave you for a couple of seconds here. Just go see if my phone is low on battery now, because we're an hour and 20 in, and we're only in round 9. So I was looking at them like, yeah, the phone is going to be losing battery sooner rather than later. At worst, we pivot over to the live online draft board and continue covering it, or I find a plug, but it didn't look like there is. So let me go check that out. I'm dangerous. I'm leaving you alone with your hot takes here. So give me a couple of seconds. I'll be right back.
Good luck. I'll be good. So 8th round, Kenneth Walker, we talked about. Not really. I mean, he's probably not playing week 1. With the build that Team 12 is doing, there's a lot of question at the running back position. Obviously, the CEH is the leader in the clubhouse, with Kansas City right now. Kenneth Walker being injured, with the groin injury. They said he's probably going to miss week 1. I expect him to miss multiple weeks. And by that time, if Rashad Penny is feeling good, he's going to be the guy. So the Team 12 Kenneth Walker pick is not a favorite of mine. We'll go down the rest of Team 8, the round 9, I think it is. Michael Gallup, we talked about it, very solid pick. I really feel like he's been moving up draft boards. With the questions in Dallas right now, I feel like they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. Back already, that was quick.
Yeah, the phone lost battery in a hurry, and I think despite it seems as though the stream just wiped it. So I have to admit, I think we're just going to transition here to the live online. But you know what? For the future, for next year, now we know, or maybe even for tomorrow or Saturday, maybe do. I'm going to go buy one of those massive extension cords, because right now the camera's in the middle of the tables
and you can't reach anything.
There's not a power cord in sight that could
no surprise there.
Plug. So that's going to be a future concern. I'll move us over to the online board. Terp, in the comments for you as we wait through this break. Dave Glatz wants to know, were you fortunate with waivers last night?
To be honest with you, I didn't even look at waivers last night. All my main events I did were all recent. So yeah, they're not anything that I would really pay attention to it. There was a couple guys that were in consideration, but nothing that I was like targeting heavy. I mean, I didn't do any of my main events like when they first started. I just like the value of waiting a little bit more, because I don't do a ton of them. I think I have 6 total, compared to some of these nut jobs who do like 30, 40 of them. God bless them. But that's crazy waivers during the week. I don't know how they keep it up, but I saw a lot of bids. I was checking on Fantasy Mojo today. Some nutty bids. I saw Isaiah Likely went for like max bid on one.
Yeah.
Pacheco was going through a ton. I mean,
Pacheco is, for a guy who has kind of lost some of his steam, kind of surprised how much that one. I guess there's just one person out there.
I mean, he's literally been dead silent, Pacheco.
Dead silent.
He was for that 2-week span. He was like, all right, he might be a 3rd-round pick. And by the time we get drafted in Vegas, like if this guy has like one preseason run, and then you saw the preseason runs they showed clips of where he was just nowhere close to a hole, like just a total disaster when it came to that. So I'm very, very surprised with the Pacheco just meltdown.
And we're back with Old Reliable, the online draft board here.
Always the best.
We'll let the people know that this was for the first half of the draft. We gave a first time ever a live draft board being recorded, but the lack of a plug in sight has ended that dream of doing a full draft there. Hopefully we'll get that sorted out, and our main event that we cover live, I'll have some power cord extension so that doesn't happen. I heard you talking. You were kind of going over the teams as we continue this way. I just want to say, during this wait, some food was served. Stomach is rumbling. Like this is. I mean, if you want to, I'm not going to eat till after the stream. I'm classier than that. But
I'm not. If I was there, I'd be eating right there on the stream. I don't care.
I have to be honest though. This is my first time experiencing it. If you're a diehard fantasy player who truly loves it, you love
get
the
out to Vegas, man.
You got to get out here. It's everything. Like meals are being served to you as you're sitting there with a bunch of other the best of the best in high stakes drafting live, because like the main event $1 million grand prize online is fantastic. It's great. I've covered it with you. Doing it in person, just
it's a different world. I mean, you sit there, you get breaks. It's not just like a 20-round like snooze fest. I mean, there's entertainment there. There's most of the time good-looking girls, which is always a positive.
Always a positive.
And you get guys who know what they're doing, and guys who you meet over the years that you become friends with pretty much for a lifetime. So it's definitely something I'd recommend. Whether you're doing one team, if you're doing one team and you get the opportunity to get on that plane, get on that plane. Like, I mean, it's just so worth it when you get there. Yeah, the guys, obviously, Dave, Alex, Chris, Balky, and the rest of the team,
Mike,
are
we got to shout out Mike.
Nice.
I'm not letting Mike get away without a shout out. Chris, Alex, Dave, Mike, Balky, myself. No, it's fantastic. The conversation you just overhear at the draft table is great too, because like it's not just you don't isolate yourself.
They don't hide from you. They're not just like sitting in the corner away from you. They're always very talkative. They're very, if you need help with anything, they will help you right away. Especially if it's your first year out there. So it's definitely take advantage of it if you get a chance.
And what's not to like? We have the opening game, the viewing party Sunday. There's
which will be fun. It's always fun. Big TV, food, drinks, all that stuff. I mean, it's worth. If you're going to do it once, that's fine. But that one time will be an exceptional time.
And I mean, if you're into high stakes fantasy, like many of these people are, Vegas is just the perfect city for you. It's everything you could ask for.
If we were talking about going to I'm going to use just a random city. Let's just say San Antonio for this draft.
Oh yeah, San Antonio.
I'm just using a random city that's not just Detroit. I mean, if anybody said they'd go to Detroit, everybody's drafting online. But like a random city like that, people would be like, "Well,
I brought up Detroit because that's where the the fantasy sports conference was this year."
Which I don't understand at all. Like, what? Like, who's gonna? I'm not gonna draw you to Detroit. Yeah. Like, nothing you tell me is gonna get. Like, Eagles were playing a Super Bowl in Minnesota, and I could have went. I was like, it's Minnesota. If the Super Bowl's in Vegas or Miami or something like that? All right, we're talking. But nah, that was anything Detroit. But you get to go to Vegas, you get to draft, you get to go out, you get to meet a lot of people, you drink heavily, hopefully win a ton of money gambling. And then if you stay out there till Monday, which I know a lot of people that I know do, you get to watch all the games out there, bet on all the games. They have so many parties that are going on. And if you just meet, a couple people here and there, I mean, it's worth it. You'll have lifelong friends.
Dave Gladstone, I love this man. Just he's providing conversation for us during this break. Trey Sermon went for $436.
That guy's an idiot. Whoever they did
next highest bid is $1.
He's an idiot.
Yeah, that's.
I'm telling you, that's one thing that's very undervalued in drafts. It's probably a little there's guys who are professional at it, like when it comes to just knowing the right money and like all that stuff. Because you always see like that guy that pops up, the Elijah Mitchell. I'll use him as an example. He'll go off week one, and then people will bid $950 for him when you could have got him for $270. it's all about knowing like that kind of stuff, because once you spend that $950, you're pretty much done for the year. You're gambling on dollar guys, and that really puts a crutch on your team when it comes to free agency. You see it all the time. You see guys spend $1,000 on one player. Okay, he better be the number 1 overall pick, because if not, you're screwed.
Yeah, no, it's that first waiver rush certainly always yields some surprises. I'm debating right now whether I should go charge my phone and we can maybe pop back in on the draft coverage. I might go do that. So while I go get that stuff and charge it up, I'm going to ask you a question to keep you occupied, because it's a tough one. I was looking through it. If you had to predict who is the offensive rookie of the year this year, I'm going to leave. I'm going to let you answer that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to have a thing. Who'd you say? But I want to hear who's the offensive rookie of the year. I have a feeling I might know, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I don't think you're going to get this right.
Okay, well, I'm going to pop out and I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to have to ask you who you said, but you're going to give the explanation to the people.
My answer to this question will be Chris Olave. I just have a feeling that Michael Thomas, there's a little bit of questions there with his health, and obviously, last year there was a lot of questions about his off-the-field stuff. I feel like he is the guy that will take the first year 1 jump. George Pickens is obviously the popular pick. I mean, I love George Pickens. He's a dog. I mean, he was my second favorite receiver coming out of this draft behind Jameson Williams. Loved him at Georgia. If he didn't get hurt, I mean, you'd be talking about him, or he went to a different team, you'd be talking about him in probably the 3rd, 4th round. So I just feel like Olave will take that next step, deep threat, for Jameis Winston, with all the questions that are surrounding Thomas. I mean, he should be out there week 1, but you really just don't know. He's probably one of the biggest wild cards right now in fantasy football. I just feel like Jameis Winston is going to be targeting Olave a lot. Obviously with Landry getting a lot of the short patterns and the patterns across the middle. He's not really a deep guy, so I feel like the connection between Olave and Winston will be pretty solid. It's a bet I will put in Olave and also Pickens as rookie of the year. I had the Pickens in a while ago. I got good value on that. I also like Sky Moore, but I feel like that could be a later developing situation. Word out of Kansas City this week, Patrick Mahomes, will be spreading the ball around, which is a lot better news than I thought. And be honest, a lot of people took that as a negative. I take it as a positive, because that means that all the hype surrounding Juju might not be what everybody thinks it is. And Juju is definitely a guy that I've been very, very light on. So I feel like if Sky Moore can, develop something right away, he's definitely probably 3rd on my list.
I've made my return. Did you pick Sky Moore as your offensive rookie of the year?
I did not. He was number 3 on my list.
Okay. Who's number 1?
Who do you think is number 1?
I was going to guess Treylon Burks, because that's one of your guys, but I really don't.
He is not. He would be number 4 on my list. The reason I say him is number 4 is because there's just so many questions in Tennessee. I feel like Treylon Burks could put up a ton of numbers, but I also think that could be a slow developing situation. I love Treylon Burks, obviously. I feel like the sky is the limit for him, but I feel like it could be like a more of a, end of the season type of thing where he just goes nuts and really, takes the next step. Might take a little growing pains early on. My pick was Chris Olave. I feel like there's a lot of questions surrounding Michael Thomas.
Okay.
I just feel like he's the closest to a safest thing in the receiving class this year. He'll definitely be a solid deep threat for Winston, who could throw the deep ball. The Thomas questions, and Thomas is not a deep guy. Neither is Jarvis Landry. They really have no tight end. So I feel like early on, I feel he could separate himself to where these other guys like Sky Moore, Treylon Burks, George Pickens is my number 2. I just feel like Olave is safer than the other guys.
Yeah, it's because I asked you that because I was kind of looking through it, and some years it's like, oh, there's a clear 2 contenders, there's a clear 1.
I don't think there's a clear contender at all.
Like London, who knows, terrible quarterback play. We talked about Garrett Wilson's getting literally no press for a top 10 pick in the draft.
Yeah,
the running backs, Breece Hall, committee, also on the Jets. Olave, I think Olave is probably a popular pick, but he, he's dealing with Michael Thomas. He's dealing with Jarvis Landry. There's other names there. I think the interesting one are Kenny Pickett. I probably is the favorite right now, just because he probably takes over in a couple of weeks. For how long do you think Mr. Trubisky lasts as a starter?
Not long. I feel like it's a 2-3 week thing. I think they start off with a couple losses and then they just give it right to Pickett. The name that we haven't said yet, which should be the favorite, is Breece Hall. But the question is, Do they?
Yeah, it's. I just wonder if by the time he emerges, which feels inevitable,
you could also say Damian Pierce. He's probably one of the favorites just based off opportunity. I don't think he gets there.
The real sleeper pick I saw, because I had a couple of friends who were on it from a betting perspective, was Desmond Ridder. They're just like value, because if he ever replaces Mariota, he looked good.
He has to do it early enough to get there, or just everybody has to sting. That's the only way I see him getting there. Like if anybody's consistent throughout the season, they're going to get it.
That's essentially just kind of my my overall point is unknown with offensive rookie of the year. It's just the way it is. It's an interesting debate. I've said Lamar's my MVP pick. Who's your MVP pick? I don't know if you said it or not. I did. Wow. Russ hasn't won an MVP in his career, right? That's like the storyline.
I feel like this year, I just feel like everything's in line for him. I am sky high on that passing game. I just feel like the situation that they have right now with Sutton, Judy, Hamler, the tight ends who, in my opinion, are solid. A lot of people give him a lot of crap there. Javonte and Melvin Gordon's a very solid backfield. I just feel like they're going to let him throw the ball. I feel like you're going to have a fast tempo offense. I just feel like it's Russ's year. He's my MVP. If I had a second, I'll be a homer and take Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I don't know about all that there.
That's why I said
you're a homer. You put like a disclaimer on it.
I put the disclaimer on it. Non-homer pick, I like Lamar. Non-quarterback, non-Christian McCaffrey.
Well, if you're telling me, like, essentially, if you're saying a non-quarterback, that's essentially what we're talking about. Who's the offensive player of the year in your mind?
Let's just take all quarterbacks out, obviously. So I'm going to go with Stephon Diggs as my.
I'm going to go Justin Jefferson just to go back to that.
Justin Jefferson. He's my number one receiver. Diggs is 2.
Yeah.
But I just feel like Buffalo is going to be so good in the regular season. They're going to get the number 1 seed. Everything's going to be in line for them. And then they're going to get to the playoffs. They're going to win a game. They're going to get home field advantage, all that good stuff. And then it's going to happen to them again where they just can't get over the hump. And I don't know who's going to beat them. But we talked about the AFC and the stat and how it's stacked.
Yeah.
There's plenty of teams that could beat them, like based off different structures of teams. The Colts, they're a little bit, Jonathan Taylor could run down their throat. You saw it almost happen last year. You keep going on the list of teams, and I just see any of them AFC West teams, they can shoot out with them. The Bengals, they can definitely shoot out with them. The Ravens, they can run all over them. The Bills' defense to me is very suspect.
It's also the question is, though, Bills get the 1 seed. You have to go to Buffalo in January to play them, and that's. I saw some of the Bills are in the process of like exploring a new facility, and they're going to go no dome. And I get that from one perspective of right, like that year element. But dude, you're trying to maximize Josh Allen. Build that dome.
Why would you get a dome going?
Yeah,
that crowd would be insane. It's insane as it is, but just getting them in a dome with that just this tightness and the crowd noise, Oh my god, that just seems like it's a recipe for just absolute success. But Buffalo, brain power up there isn't the best.
Dave Gladstone in the chat asking our comeback player of the year. Might as well just continue rolling. Christian McCaffrey, as he said, it feels like it's like the obvious, like right in your face. Like, yes, he should. Does Derrick Henry, there's a lot of Saquon. There's a lot of names coming back from injury. I don't know how much some of them count because they played solid amount of games last season. That does Derrick Henry count as a comeback? He's coming back from.
He definitely comes back. I feel like. He was setting the world on fire.
Mm-hmm.
The popular one for me would be Allen Robinson. I just feel like coming off a down year, people pretty much have written him off. Then he gets to the perfect fit with the Rams.
Does ETN count?
He count. He was injured, so it's hard to.
Oh, we're back. Our draft is back.
I feel like, you can go.
There's so many names this year.
DJ Moore, I get.
Allen Robinson, DJ Moore, I think had too good of a year. Allen Robinson's a rare name, a guy who wasn't hurt. He just dealt with the Bears. Allen Robinson, comeback player of the year, played on the Bears last year. Now he's good again. We are underway in the 10th round. For those, I'm sure people are going to be returning, so remind it. We were recording live the live draft board here in Vegas. essentially technical difficulties. By technical difficulties, I mean iPhone battery expired on me. So we've moved to the live draft board for the second half of this draft. Starting this 10th round, Chase Claypool, Melvin Gordon, and Pat Freiermuth. Team 10.
Doing well.
Pat Freiermuth, thank you. A big fan. Irv going in the 10th round.
You're going to start seeing runs.
I want to say that's earlier than Irv's been going because of the uncertainty. Yeah, he's been going 11.5.
I feel like a team without a tight end, he might be the first. Like he might be the last of like guys you can be like, I can comfortably start him and be okay. Yeah. I mean, it's starting to get, without looking at who's available, it's starting to get a little thin at tight end. I mean, Alberto is obviously a guy I like.
Alberto buzz tailed off, and I don't really know why. Was it just the Greg Dulcich was there and getting some?
Yeah, but then he's hurt now, so like I feel like Alberto, like they have nobody else. But Team 7, what are you doing at running back? Like, what are you taking Alberto over a running back right now? I know they're probably not great, but why? Like you're starting Penny and Harris. It makes no sense.
I mean, you said the run was coming, and we start off this 10th round after about a 20-minute break, pause into action here live in Vegas, and just an absolute run on tight ends. Hunter Henry, the only thing I think we've mentioned about him live on our streams is that he's might be missing. I haven't heard anything about him.
Nothing.
Hunter Henry had a great year last year.
Outstanding year. Mac Jones loved him.
Mac loves him. I love that.
Love that. How does Team 7 not take Rashad White with that build?
Yeah, I'm going to try and go look up. I just do want to touch on Hunter Henry because I just feel as though the words I'm stumbling over. It's just essentially like he can't be as irrelevant as he felt like he's been. Like he's obviously drafted in the 10th round here. We're obviously still drafting him, like middle of drafts. But there's no way all the lack of conversation around him. It's odd. It's very odd to me. I want to go see the running backs who are left for Team 7 there.
I think people are worried about Smith being somewhat relevant that he wasn't last year, Jonah Smith. I mean, he had a good camp. They always show like the targets per camp. He was one of the leaders for the Patriots, so that's a worry, I guess. But I feel like Henry's just a better player. And just for this build, I mean, Team 6? Even with Derrick Henry, I mean, Hunter Henry pick, I don't know. That team just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. Some of the running backs, you used to say Alexander Madison and Rashad White were just drafted as we look at Team 7. Kenny Gainwell, James Robinson, Khalil Herbert, Mostert, Zamir White, Brian Robinson. A lot of names.
It's not pretty.
No, I mean, it just.
But I feel like you gotta
shoot for upside.
You got to shoot the Khalil Herbert. You could have took White. You could have took Madison. Like I'm not the biggest Madison guy this year, but you could have took guys that they're an injury away from being a stud. And I feel like on a team like this, you have to. You don't really have a choice because you have the 6 running backs. You have the elite tight end. You still don't have a quarterback. So now you're 2 positions behind everybody else. When you have teams like Team 1 and Team 2 who are filling out their rosters almost perfect, depending on obviously players, are important, but Team 1 needs a tight end, and I'm sure they're going to take 1, maybe 2 here, but the rest of their team is stacked.
I don't mind Madison for 2 reasons. Well, the issue is Dalvin's going to get hurt, so at least for 3, 4, 5 weeks of the season, you're going to have a top tier running back. What's also though intrigues by Alexander Madison is he very well could get traded at some point this year.
He could, and if he goes to a team like Atlanta. Or a team like Houston, even with Pierce.
Hear me out.
Or even a team like Philadelphia if something happens to Miles Sanders. We're talking about a totally different player.
I just wanted to say I don't think he goes to Houston or Atlanta because why would they trade assets for a guy who's going to be a free agent? I think if he's getting traded, it's to a team that lost a good team that lost a running back to injury.
You're right.
Philadelphia. So that's why I'm kind of don't think it happens. I think it would have already happened. But that possibility intrigues me just enough that he could end up being a starting running back at some point, either through Dalvin injury or via trade. One more appealing to me as a Dalvin Cook owner than the other. That running back run. It's also just want to know after we talked about team 7.
I want to talk about team 3.
Oh God! Yep.
So they started off
amazing.
We were ready to anoint them the champion of this league. So their strength was clearly receivers. Since then, have not taken a receiver and taken 5 wildly questionable running backs. So in this league, the FFPC format, you start 2 running backs, you start 2 receivers, 2 flexes, and a tight end. You literally have to start 3 of those running backs. Mm-hmm. Which ones you starting? Dobbins probably isn't ready. You're going to start Elijah Mitchell and Pollard and Carter week 1. That's not something you want to do. I mean, you could have built a little bit more on your strength. The Goddard pick was a reach. You still don't have a quarterback. I still don't know why Trey Lance is there. But yeah, that team's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, we focus on Team 7 a lot because in a way, they're having such a not controversial, just such a viewing, like, I don't know, their strategy draws attention. So we've talked about them a lot, but if they can get Trey Lance in this round,
it makes sense with Debo. I don't know why they didn't take Trey Lance over Alberto.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're just trying to see. I mean, Team 3 is the only other team without a quarterback on the wraparound for them. So maybe they just were hoping
they could take Dak too. Dak makes sense for them.
They had
they're gambling and they're going to be right a quarterback, but
yeah. We've talked about them a lot. Literally the four of the running backs that we kind of singled out that they could have taken literally went essentially right after them.
Mm-hmm. They don't take a quarterback here or a running back. I mean, they're chasing team.
Could you imagine?
We talk about team 11. They're chasing team 11 for just.
Could you imagine? I walk over. Hey, we're live on stream. You're in the middle of a $10,000 entry. We want to ask you what are you doing?
Burn money. Why did you just burn money? You literally put it up and just burned it.
Without a doubt, we've been asked like, oh, will you revisit some of the leagues you live streamed?
Of course.
This one easily is going to be
easily. This might be like a every other week, if not weekly thing. When we go back, I mean, you're talking about a $10,000 league. This is no joke. These guys clearly, I mean, you would think know what they're doing. They're spending this kind of money, in a confined league. So, I mean, you could see, in my opinion, there's just teams that are just so much better than the other ones. And that doesn't mean anything realistically. I mean, everything, we could all be wrong. Players could be wrong, but I'm just talking about the basic structure of the team and the basic, fundamentals of building a team. And team 1, team 2 are just clearly above, and team 9 are clearly above everybody else right now.
Yeah, I mean, and this, as you said, it's a confined league, so it would be very easy for us to track rather than trying to select which of the main events we want to cover and whatnot.
Of course.
So,
he's going to be on the clock in a minute now, so we might need a moment of silence just before he picks, just so we can see how this goes. Because
I might know who this person is too, but it's gonna be funny if he does. I love Wandale. If he does indeed decide to, if he does,
this has to be Trey Lance. It has to be. It has to take Trey Lance so I can say something nice.
If he decides,
I really like the start of this team.
Oh,
no, wow. Oh my god! I don't have words. Like, what are you? Does he know this is a confined league?
If he decides to watch our stream,
the worst part about Team 7 is I don't like the players and all that stuff is what he's going to get lucky very likely and get Trey Lance or Dak Prescott. There
are 2 teams coming up without quarterbacks, so.
There are, and you would think one of them. You would think maybe Devontae Adams' team. They might go Carr. They might go Stafford with Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got Renfro with Derek Carr. Maybe. I mean, what are you waiting for? Like, what is Garrett Wilson going to do on this team? When is he playing for you? You have 7 now receivers. Who you start in week 1? Obviously, you're starting Lamb. You're starting Samuel. Godwin, are you going to start him? You don't know. Metcalf, you really excited about that? Devonta Smith, second receiver. Lazard might not play. So is there a world where you're starting Garrett Wilson week 1?
No.
I don't. I'm shocked. I'm shocked by that pick.
It's just this guy's going to watch the stream and be like,
if he wins this league, hey.
This is one of those things, though, where I'm going to be honest. Like, there are some people on streams like these people just don't know what they're doing. This guy knows what he's doing. He fully believes in the strategy, and
he fully believes in just pounding receivers. And hey, that I think this is a best ball team. If this is a best ball team, I still think it's crazy what he's doing. I still think it's a little nutty, but you have to start somebody. It's unless the format changed in the last hour, you have to start somebody. So who are you starting?
Their current starting lineup looks like this. It's
but who is
Penny and Harris, or they obviously don't have a quarterback yet. Penny, Harris, and then CD, Debo, Kelsey, and then let's say Godwin plays, Godwin and DK, and then their bench is Smith, Lazard, Alberto, Garrett Wilson. it's certainly a strategy, Terp. That's all I can say at this point.
And then you can maybe say, am I going to start Alberto? You can throw that in there. Maybe he's the second flex.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you're going to do it, but like that's why I don't understand. It's just that this is a best ball roster, and these teams that are 9 and 10 are taking advantage of this because they know. I'd be shocked if neither of them take it to like it's going to come back. They said, why would I take a quarterback now?
Yeah,
there's 3 that are available that are clearly above everybody else, in my opinion. You could put Cousins as a 4th if you want because I think he's very valuable. But you have Stafford, you have Carr, you have Prescott, you have Lance still sitting there in the 12th round. It just I don't get it. I don't get it at all. He's going to luck into one of those guys. He's going to luck into one of those guys.
I mean, I think that the thing about the QB, he made like it to there. Wow, I was
double tap.
That's crazy. That is crazy that Team 12 did it because I was about
and
to
honestly, in this type of format, it's not the worst idea in the world. Okay. It's not.
He has 2 top 5 fantasy quarterbacks in my mind, Lamar and Trey.
So do I. I agree with you there. But it's a confined league. You're not playing for $1 million. Mm-hmm. So you realize these 4 teams that are dancing with the devil don't have quarterbacks. So 11th round Trey Lance, if he sits on your bench all year, whatever, fine. Something happens to Lamar, you got a top 5 guy. Instead, you let him keep going to these teams that just keep pushing it, and they're getting crazy value. I don't mind it. This type of league, snaking people, go for it. I like
think
what Team 12 did.
It was funny that Team 12 did because I was literally just about to say, compared to some of the other streams that we've done, I was about to say we haven't seen the double tap quarterbacks. We've seen people waiting on quarterbacks, and then lo and behold, but certainly like that Trey Lance.
This pick has to be Derek Carr.
Have to assume these next 2 guys take quarterback,
and
maybe
Prescott,
one of them waits.
Carr, Stafford. It has to be one of them. I mean, I guess they could wait, but if I'm after them and like I don't see anybody that's like crazy value, I mean, why not?
I'm intrigued.
Backup quarterback's not the worst thing to have in this format. You don't want to get stuck with nobody if somebody gets hurt. Dak Prescott. So there's a good pick.
There we go. That's a 10th quarterback off the board.
10th just figured it out. They realize that they don't want to get cute anymore because
if 9 gets Stafford here,
take Stafford.
I'm loving Team 9.
Should take Derek Carr.
Yeah, either one.
One of the 2 should be the pick here. He takes neither of them. Maybe he's just dancing again. Feel like this guy at 7.
Like, as you said, Carr and Stafford, odds are one of them probably falls right to 13, right?
Odds are, but like if I'm sitting there afterwards, I mean, if you don't love what's on the board and you could snake these guys, they could be thrown out. Like after Kirk Cousins, after Justin Fields, like who do you really feel confident like starting?
I mean, they're Tom Brady's still on the board. There's still some names. So honestly, I don't knock Team 9 right now for waiting because again,
no, I mean I don't. I feel like if you're going to do this long, you just keep adding depth to your team, like whatever. But their builds are way better than Team 7. Team 7 takes another receiver here. We might get off stream because that would just I don't know what they're doing.
I want them to take another receiver now. Give me chaos.
Like it would be complete chaos if they take or a tight end or something.
I feel like they are. If
this is not a quarterback or running back, I would be just speechless.
I'm literally in silence. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting.
I'm literally what were they?
Oh, and now we're getting a couple teams
double tap again. Good for these people. Make these people get punished for worrying about Garrett Wilson.
Mostert
to the running back, so he's fine. That was actually hand up. Really good pick by them.
Yeah, I mean 12th round.
Really good pick by them.
I can't get if we're going to talk about, I can't get like a Mostert itch almost. Like there's Mostert just like there's like this slight itch.
I haven't drafted him a lot lately. I don't like him, but like I feel like they have nobody else there behind Edmonds. So
Mike McDaniel coming from the Niners, the running backs come out of nowhere. They have the Niners connection previously. Yeah, it's just there's something about him where I'm like I like that pick there.
I agree. I with that team set up. It's probably the best pick they've had. It's the best pick they've had since probably CD Lamb.
Team 6, obviously, rough start. I just want to say, of their last 5 receivers drafted, 4 of them are fantastic, and Amari Cooper in the 7th isn't terrible.
Team 6 after these, I mean, the first 5 picks, very suspect. Not Josh Allen, but I'm just going to say, like,
it's
first quarterback.
The build.
Yeah, the first quarterback. But since then, their draft's been very good. Elijah Moore, we love. Amari Cooper, not the worst in the 7th round. Singletary is, okay. Sky Moore, love him. Hunter Henry, we talked about him, positive. We're all big fans of Wandell. And then DJ Chark, he's going to be the guy for probably the first half of the season. So, yeah, I'm a fan of what they did.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of coverage you would assume would be on Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark's flash talent. He's been
and TJ Hawkinson too. I mean, you're going to see a lot of coverage that DJ Chark's going to be a lot of man-to-man. And he's shown in the past he has the talent to do it.
Yes. So, I mean, his value there. I mean, we're hitting that part in the draft where you're shooting for the upside, and we're going to be complimentary of those teams that we find are shooting for upside. Team 4, 3 straight running backs. What do you think of there? I feel like we haven't talked about them in a bit. Their build, what are you thinking? Kupp, Fournette, ETN, Terry McLaurin, Rashad Bateman, TJ Hawkinson, Kyler, Cordero, Robert Woods, Alexander Mattison, Pacheco, and McKinnon. Really not bad, if I'm being completely honest.
It's not bad. I don't think it compares with the elite in this league, but it's not bad. I mean, I feel like the top 5 picks really solid. Hawkinson, Murray, good players. But some of these running backs are not the handcuffs I'd be targeting. Patterson's a good pick, but you don't know. There's so many questions in Atlanta right now. Is Damian Williams going to get the run? Is Algier going to be the guy? So Patterson should be the guy early on. You should see a pretty similar output, hopefully, that he did last year. But Madison, questions. Robert Woods should be the guy, and obviously Tennessee. But I'm still on the Treylon Burks, bandwagon. Pacheco, dead silence. Jerick McKinnon, 3rd, maybe 4th, but who knows right now? So that's worth the gamble right there. I feel like he's the cheapest out of the bunch. So yeah, I'm good with McKinnon.
Yeah, and for those just joining in, we are covering the live draft coverage here in Vegas of the FFPC High Society League, $10,000 entry. First half of the draft, we were recording the big board here live in Vegas in Planet Hollywood, the Celebrity Ballroom. Had some technical difficulties with our camera during the break, so we have transitioned to the online board for the second half of this draft. If you want to see the first half, obviously, this will be as soon as this live stream is done, you can go check it out. Round 12 is shaping up like this: Khalil Herbert, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Dak Prescott, Julio Jones, Tom Brady, Raheem Mostert, DJ Chark, Tyler Higbee, Jerick McKinnon, Jalen Tolbert, and then 2 tight ends finish off: Gerald Everett, Evan Ingram. I know you're a big Evan Ingram guy. Those 2 guys are you're on the clock. Those 2 guys are both available. Gerald Everett, Evan Ingram, 2 guys who have maybe underperformed relative to what people have expected them for what we've seen their talent. Who are you taking?
Always Evan Ingram for me. I feel like Doug Peterson loves a tight end, obviously being, when he coached in Philly, Zach Ertz, Goddard, they were very, very integral in the offense. So I feel like Ingram's a better player overall. I mean, obviously he has drop issues. We've seen that in the past. But I like Everett too. I don't hate Everett. I feel like obviously in that offense, but he's probably the 4th target when you could probably make a case that Evan Ingram's a 2nd target behind Christian Kirk, with obviously the both Jones, Marvin, and Zay. Team 1 continues to just destroy this draft.
Team 1's you're clear. It seems like for me, Team 1 I'm loving, but Team 9 as well is I'm still really liking.
I like Team 9. They
need to get a quarterback. Yeah,
they need to get a quarterback. I just feel like, Team 1 is very. I mean, they're very, very, to me, the best team by a good margin in this league.
They don't really have holes. I mean, your weakest position looks to be tight end, but Njoku and Ingram, 2 guys we talked about who very high upside and we both really like for the opportunity that's presented to them. So they did well.
If Javonte Williams, I'll tell you about something about this team. If Javonte Williams is anything like some people who love him this team wins this league by a large margin. I mean, Javonte Williams is the guy that people were taking, something happens to Melvin Gordon, the Javonte Williams, this league's over before it starts. Because McCaffrey, Williams, and a floor and with tons of upside in A.J. Dillon. I mean, A.J. Brown, we talked about. Mooney, who's going to get 8,000 targets. Ayuk, who could be the next guy. Hurts with Brown. Nyheim Hines, who we're talking about, like being, integral part of that offense. The Pickens, dog preseason he's had. I mean, there's not a pick on here that they made that I could say I don't like.
If you were in their shoes, obviously you're not super high on Javonte. You said Javonte's the guy the high stakes community loves, that you're probably the most out on. Seeing how obviously it's hard because it changes everything, but what would you have done differently? Would you have just gone a receiver there and then been comfortable with A.J. Dillon as your RB2? Because there's no really running back, maybe other than ETN, that you would probably picked ahead of him.
No, I mean ETN would be the only running back that I would consider. I mean, I've been trying to late add some more Javonte Williams. It's not that I don't like him. I'm just worried about the timeshare. I feel like Gordon's going to just annoy him enough to where he's never going to pan out for a second round pick. Obviously, I'm just so invested in the pass catchers, with Sutton obviously, and then Jerry Jeudy, that if it was me, I'd probably start off Brown Sutton or Brown ETN or Sutton ETN or DJ Moore. Probably nobody else in that range that would probably get into my range.
13th round underway as I knock the table. Zamir White, J.D. McKissick, Matthew Stafford, Nico Collins, Russell Gage, K.J. Osborne, Eno Benjamin, and Jacoby Myers. As Team 3 gets their quarterback in Stafford, and Team 7 passed on a quarterback again. The Team 9's up. Do they take Carr here, or do they?
It has to be Carr. I guess they could wait and maybe it comes back to him, but they just saw what Team 12 did with Jackson and Lance. So, I think you got to take Carr because, realistically, you got Carr, you got Cousins.
I think, yeah, but Carr and Cousins are probably the only two ones where you feel like, yeah, I'm very comfortable having them.
You also have like the Lawrences and the Justin Fields, so it doesn't do it.
That second tier of guys like the Rodgers, the as you said, the Fields, Matt Ryan, guys of that ilk, even like Baker, like I can just write off. You can't
behind
you
too
feel
much
comfortable. You can't feel comfortable starting those guys. Carr and Cousins are available. I think there's about 14, 15 quarterbacks. So I'm like, yeah, there's like 14 or 15, I think, legitimate QB1 like starters.
You have to look at it like if you're playing a Lamar Jackson in this type of league or Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, there's weeks that they could put up 30, 35. Can any of these guys put up 30 to 35? The answer is probably no. And if the answer is no, then like you got to feel like I'm down 12 before I start. So like the margin in this type of league, you can get away with that in a best ball league or in a non-confined league like this is if you're playing for $1 million, obviously with the shootout and stuff like that, because guys like Carr and Adams, they can go nuts just like Burrow and Chase did last year. But starting them every week, even if you take two guys, let's just say you go Carr, Fields right back to back, then you're going to get in the category of who am I starting every week. And that's a tough decision because even the best matchups sometimes fall flat. And if that happens, you're looking at a guy on your bench to put up 30 and you got the guy to put up 11.
Donovan Peoples-Jones. I guess go get your guy. 18.11. He's been going literally the late in the 18th. He goes 14.1 today. So he's been going as a wide receiver 90.
That's definitely a reach. At this point, I feel like if you love Donovan Peoples-Jones, like whatever. Like I don't think there's a bad bit. I think
we're at the range. We can't knock it too much. It just bring it out of it because
you take really AJ Green. I'm going to say you're an idiot, but
yes.
Besides him, yeah.
But I feel like it's so funny. We've been so eager anticipation of 9-7 when they're going to take their quarterback now. 9 is about to be up. I'm intrigued to see where they go.
It has to be Derek Carr. It just has to be.
Again, Carr and Cousins. What are the odds, real quick, before it gets plugged in, that you think that they take a quarterback here? Minus what?
Minus
275. Oh, look at us on the same wavelength.
It has to be. Because people are going to start double tapping quarterbacks. Oh, he didn't again.
They go to the third tight end.
Man,
how does it feel?
We're going to look back on this draft and this team, and you're going to this is definitely one I would love to look back and study week by week.
We'll do that. How much, maybe on our preview show, our weekly preview show, we can maybe give a little bit of update on the High Society.
Is like. I love what they're like. 3 tight ends who are likely like Brevin Jordan a ton. Irv Smith, big fan of him. Obviously he'll be ready this week. Love Dotson. There's nothing I don't like about Team 9, but you got to get a quarterback.
What's crazy though,
too, it's like you're just dancing with the devil.
What's crazy though is there's still a conceivable chance Carr and Cousins could come back around to them, and we'll be like, wow. At that point, right now,
if I'm one of these other teams, I'm going to start getting a little creative with my picks.
Yeah, I was about to say, would you be surprised if the room doesn't hurt them?
If you look at Cousins, you look at Justin Fields, you look at Carr, you look at Trevor Lawrence, I guess you could say. Besides that, what? Like what?
Yeah. You're in a bad spot.
Yuck is the only word.
I'm going to move up. I just want to recall. I believe 7 doesn't either, right? Yeah, 7 and 9 are the only two who don't have a quarterback. So we'll monitor that. Team 7, they went with.
I mean, Team 7 is doing. Is it Team 7? Yeah, Team 7 is doing the exact 0 to a T. The 0 RB heroes that are out there. I feel like there's like a couple different ways you're going to do it. Like I've started a bunch of drafts where I started 4 receivers or like 4 receivers and a tight end or something like that. And then I feel like you got to get to a point where that area is you got to get some running backs in there. Because if you're just waiting for this to happen, like you're going to be out of it probably before Mostert or Benjamin or Algier are relevant. And the 3 guys I just mentioned might be not relevant after week 1. And then you're drawing dead. I really would love to go back and look at this team and just see if they could win the league if everything works out, the perfect storm. But
I think there's some teams that everything needs to break their way, and there's other teams that build where they can survive issues that happen.
If something happens to like if Javonte Williams doesn't survive and is a timeshare, I mean, he's probably gonna be
God, that sounds so dark. If Javonte Williams doesn't survive,
I mean, I don't think he's a second round pick personally, but if he doesn't survive, if he doesn't thrive, we'll use a word that rhymes with survive. If he doesn't thrive like most people think he's going to do, I mean, you could still. There's plenty of other options that team has that could make it. Now you got to survive. Every word is coming out of my mouth right now. I can't think of anything
else. If
Javonte
Williams some ill befalls him, Melvin Gordon would be my number 1 suspect.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon's definitely a leader, and Mike Boone just trying to get some more carries.
Yeah,
I like the Jalen Warren pick. I'm a big fan of that pick.
And is that just because you think Najee's going to break down, or just they're going to give him
Frank injury? Like, what kind of injury was it? Like, he clearly said he had a sprain, but any injury like that's a long-term injury. Yeah, I'm sure Najee.
Dr. Liquorie and Dr. Tripoli coming into the live stream. Let's diagnose Najee Harris. It doesn't sound good as much as they're trying to reassure us. But
I mean, I drafted not a good amount, but I drafted, in the early best balls I was doing. Like I was probably at like 10% before August on Najee Harris, but I don't think I've even thought about him in a draft since. I just have the injury. Once I heard the injury, it was a full fade whatsoever. I mean, I saw a couple things on Twitter that those injuries could be a year long, before they're right. So
exactly. And I feel like you've been an ETN guy. All the people who slander ETN, the Lisfranc gets so easily re-injured, all that. Yeah. Like, why not enough people are talking about Najee? I guess maybe the sprain is way worse. Excuse me, not way worse.
It's also ETN's injury happened in the preseason of last year. Yeah. So it's a full year for recovery.
I think
they definitely weren't going to rush him back.
What we're hearing with this sprain is just it's lesser, it's healed, but just I hear so much with running backs when they have feet injuries, you don't want to touch that. They come back to bite you. So
100%.
Steelers seem to like Jalen Warren as a lot. Shame as my Benny Snell fandom.
That's okay.
That'd be retired, but he's been inching up. We talked about him. He was free even a couple of weeks ago. I wouldn't say the preseason buzz for Warren started until like mid-August. So that some people out there have exceptional value, and if anything befalls Najee, then here we go. Fields has gone off the board card. It's literally
smart.
Kirk Cousins.
It's smart. In this league, it makes sense to draft a backup quarterback because you're talking about confined leagues. So like if something happens to your stud, something happens to Jalen Hurts, I freaking hope not, but if something happens to him, then you have a really solid backup in Derek Carr. It just makes all the sense in the world. And these teams they're getting pounded right now because realistically, you got Cousins, who my guess is doesn't make it back to either of them, and then Trevor Lawrence. After that, who am I missing?
And even T-Law, like Kirk Cousins. I've said I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback going into the season. So
let's just say after those two,
I'm just after him. I wouldn't really put Lawrence in there because much as
I'm saying but it's worth the wild card, I guess.
Sure, but after Lawrence at least should be way better coach, better team around him. That
100%.
Maybe you're not fully comfortable, but you know what? It's fine. After those two, as you're saying, Matt Ryan's 37 years old.
Baker questions. Jameis Winston.
Like the thing with, let's say they draft Baker, I don't mind Baker.
I don't mind Baker. I love Baker.
You had a great team. I think Team 9 had a great team, and they're not maximizing it. They're really hurting themselves.
No. They
that's
literally
where it comes into effect.
I mean, quarterback, and they're going to take 2 guys probably, and then it's like it goes to the weekly thing. Like, who are you starting every week? You're going to play a matchup, and you're probably going to be wrong 60% of the time.
And
some guy's going to emerge, and the other guy's going to be a wasted pick.
And there's something we said. You're in a 20-round league where most of these teams are going to take backups. There's not that many conceivable quarterbacks on waivers to play the weekly game available, depending on how long you wait, right?
You're right.
Like there's 14 gone. Probably
you're going to be looking at Mariotas of the world, Wentz's of the world, Davis Mills of the world, guys like that who are Geno Smiths. I mean, Daniel Jones.
Let's say Team 7 grabs Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins gets hurt. Now you're screwed, and you could have had Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields
and Derek Carr, or Justin Fields. You can get on the list.
And
still doesn't take.
There goes Kirk Cousins. So Team 7 and Team 9 are into the risk, like the true, absolute. You're not comfortable starting Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Matt Ryan, Jameis.
No, I mean, there's nothing you're comfortable. I mean,
at this point, do you just wait? Like, I'm being serious. Do you?
I guess Tua doesn't make. Tua's not the worst idea. Maybe. I mean, he's the guy that we kind of forgot. Tua.
I just don't. I'm not a member of Tuanon, so I just.
I'm definitely not a member either, but. I feel like at this point, you got no quarterback. Did they just forget to take a quarterback? I mean, this pick has to be Tua, right?
I think that
Tua or Trevor Lawrence.
But at what point, though, is it yep, Kirk Cousins is gone? I'm just going to wait.
I feel like you got to take one because let's just hypothetically say right now, all those teams after him, 3 of them have quarterbacks already. 4 of them have quarterbacks. 3. Yeah, 3. Let's just say they all take quarterbacks, backups right there. Yep. Then what are you looking at? You got to take him eventually. Sonny Michel, what's his? It's shocking to me because Team 9 has potentially still has. Obviously, things could fall their way, but has potentially ruined a great draft.
It's funny. This stream has become a Team 7 and Team 9 quarterback watch. For those just joining in, me and Terp. I'm live in Vegas. Terp's virtual. He regrets not being able to come here, but we're live in Vegas covering the FFPC High Society. Draft coverage. It's a $10,000 entry per team. We were recording the draft board here. Technical difficulties halfway through, so we transitioned to the online board. Be sure to go check out the full stream so you can actually see there's something about seeing those stickers being placed on the board that makes me feel some kind of way. Obviously, we scrolled down so you can't necessarily see. Team 7 and Team 9 have yet to draft a quarterback. Team 7, we've been focused on a lot of this because of their strategy. They just hammered receivers and waited on running back and now quarterback. But Team 9, we're kind of up in arms about
on the clock.
They had a great
Aaron Rodgers.
We forgot about Rodgers. Not saying that he's good, but we forgot about Rodgers as a contender here.
Not the worst pick right here.
Because we were talking about Tua, Kirk, Marin. I forgot that Rodgers was out there. One of the reasons
that's probably not a good thing and a bad thing at the same time because Rodgers hasn't really been in a conversation.
Comfortable starting him, but I think his ceiling is capped. I talked about it.
Name recognition will get him some starts for you. It's just a question of.
If you're this Team 9, do you come back around with another quarterback? Grab maybe Tua or Baker or someone.
I feel like you have to. I feel
maybe take 3. You might have to take 3 and just hope one
never take 3. I feel like there's not 3 to be worth taking.
Fair.
Because then you're just in a nightmare of weekly starts. I mean.
Yeah, because there's some guys late. Personally, you've talked about it. Now it's more of sometimes best ball, but Davis Mills is going to have.
I like Davis Mills. I like Baker. They're 2 guys that I have no problem being my backup. In a best ball if I have a stud type of situation, which I've done.
This isn't best ball, so
this isn't best ball though. So it's I think they're waiver guys. I think Baker might get drafted by one of these teams, but I don't think Davis Mills. I would take Daniel Jones' rushing ability over probably both of them.
Dave Gladson's in the chat. He's saying, I think what he's referencing is if this Team 9 falls, Aaron Rodgers and Jameis back to back, they put themselves in a bad spot. It's not great, but of all the bad situations,
the upside's still there.
Yeah, that might be the best bad situation for quarterback to kind of salvage their draft.
It really just comes down to do you believe in Rodgers? I mean, if we interviewed Team 9. They might be like, oh, yeah, this is exactly what I wanted. I have a feeling they'd be lying, but they probably would have, jumped, a little earlier if they knew these guys.
I go back and forth on that because they had to foresee this. When Likely and Brevin went, we had Fields was
Julio went. I mean, you can go down the list of just
you can go down the list. Like, you can't tell me they're like at some point they must have been. I'm getting one of the Rodgers, Lawrences of the world, because there's no way they kept thinking that Carr, Fields, Cousins would fall back to them. Like they had to be cognizant, unless they're just out of it for whatever reason, which I don't think they are, because they've showed great drafting up to that point.
Team 7, who knows what they're going to do?
Especially, we're talking Team 9 maybe goes back to back. Yeah,
Team 7 has 0, not a quarterback on the board.
I don't know. Again, just I love reminding people of things I like, no matter how many times it's mentioned. Jameson Williams around 16, I love it.
Of course,
that late season. But as you always say, it's tough because when waivers come around,
you gotta have patience, especially in a league like this. Needs are going to come up, and if you risk an injury to somebody early, I mean, it's dangerous.
Buffalo defense off the board here. I like just a question.
I don't understand why Buffalo is the number 1 defense being taken, to be honest with you.
You think they're a little bit overrated? They were a great team.
I feel like every year the top defense is always overrated.
Never hits. I do agree with that. But there's also something we all love starting off week 1 great. We all anticipate this game being a shootout. You're starting Buffalo defense against the Rams week 1, and I know you got to think long season, but for a personal opinion, who defenses I don't think as highly of. I'm a big streaming defense fan. I know that's maybe not
100%. But my number 1 defense I've been streaming is Carolina week 1.
I picked up Carolina. Because I blanked in the draft room, and Broncos defense against the Seahawks was there. I didn't take it, and I took Carolina. But I'm
those two with the Colts. Colts is a defense you could start no matter what. But so is Denver. But Denver, when you start in Denver against San Diego or the Chargers, whatever they're called these days.
You had a good draft when Broncos defense passing up them in the second to last round was generally what made me most upset with myself. I don't look at defenses, but I do think there's something to be said is more than likely Buffalo defense is not going to be good week 1. You're maybe saying for the entirety of the season.
I think Buffalo loses tonight.
I think Buffalo, it's essentially a pick 'em. I believe Rams last call were plus 115, but again, we talked about on the preview show, Super Bowl winners 18-3 in their last 21 opening games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I just want a good game. I want a high scoring, electric Allen Robinson game because I want my first ever play of the week to be hit. So
I think it's your night when it comes to that. I think Robinson's going to outscore Cobb.
Please, although at the age old, as I told you, I'm playing against him and starting him, so that is what it is.
That's the hard part about doing as many leagues as like I do.
Yeah,
it's like I'm pumped up. I got so many Diggs Allen teams, but then I'm like I play against some Diggs Allen teams. And I'm like, all I care about is my main events. I mean, I know who I play about in them.
I'm sure priority. It evens out in the end. And if
the best ball thing, you can't get really too high, too low about that because one week you could put up 150, and the next week you put up 30.
I'm going to make note of 2 things. David Bell, I've been going around doing I'll post it on social media on the FFPC later, just cool little content. But what was your favorite pick of the draft? One team said David Bell, and round 16 was their favorite pick of the draft. I'm like, that was the first guy I interviewed. I was expecting I got some Gabe Davises. I'm just wow, sure, if that's your favorite pick,
And the good news is the guy who just drafted David Bell, he must love him too because he still hasn't taken a quarterback, and he took David Bell over him.
Yeah, Greg Dulce just hated Hurts here. I just want to also make note because I had a conversation. Alex loves Kenny Galladay this year. First person I've ever met to be in on Kenny Galladay. He thinks he's going to be good.
What?
I said the same thing. I said, Alex.
I know he's a Giants guy, but
he said he's the starting X receiver. He thinks it's group think that he's bad. I'm like, he has the hips of an 80-year-old man. Kenny Galladay does. He can't run.
I love Kenny Galladay when he played in Detroit. I loved him when they signed him first, but it's
injuries.
Just one of the worst free agent signings in recent history.
It's a weird mix of injuries. Certainly, it's not. He was a good player. I don't think that's debatable. But injuries hurt him, and then it just looks like he's not.
Well, let's make a statement. If you're taking Kenny Galladay in the 18th, or he just got taken at 16th, but I thought I'm going the 18th round the other night. Whatever.
You're. But we go back to you and me.
You're hoping Alex is right, and if not, you cut him.
You and me, you cut him, but you and me, we're very much, we repeat over upside. Kenny Galladay has none, so that's why I think it's not a bad pick 18th, but why?
To me, he's a little bit better AJ Green.
But I had to mention that. Literally, Alex is the first person out in the wild I've ever met who this year is I'm in on Kenny Galladay. I'm like,
He is definitely a minority when it comes to that. I'm shocked by that statement.
Certainly.
I know he's a Giants guy, but yeah, that's definitely not for me.
I mean, is Kenyon Drake or not going to say his name around you, but is Kenyon Drake going kind of in the 16th, 17th round? Late season, no, but for those first couple of weeks, could he win some teams, some games, or no?
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all.
But do you think I'll clarify. Kenyon Drake, let's say J.K. Dobbins comes back, Samuel, like first 3 weeks of the season, does Kenyon Drake over under 1.5 running back, top 20 running back finishes?
No Dobbins?
No Dobbins. Those first. So
you're saying 3 weeks of no Dobbins?
I'll even say 4.
I can see
4 weeks.
Over 1.5. I think I'd probably take the over.
I think I go back. I think that's a good line, 1.5, because I feel like there's one.
I can tell you one thing. I'm not taking Mike Davis anywhere. If Mike Davis beats me, he can beat me. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
I'm just like thinking out loud. It's Kenyon Drake, and Lamar likes dumping it down to the running backs. We kind of saw that with Devontae Freeman at points last year. They don't really have that many receiving weapons, as we know. Isaiah Likely is their third. Kenyon Drake, let's say he's a starter for the first 4 weeks of the season. Top 20 is tough, but it's going to be, I think, 1 or 2 where he's close to being a thing. And that at this late, you're maybe drafting a guy could help you win a couple of early.
I agree, especially if you have running back issues. I agree.
Mike Davis went before him, I believe, in this draft, unless I'm missing. I thought I saw Mike Davis somewhere. Maybe not.
Yeah, he got drafted in the
round. He did get drafted before Kenyon Drake, which still surprises me. Like Drake's better at just. I'm not going to say it around you, but a certain someone on this live stream who's wearing glasses drafted Mike Davis last year, and he got caught up a little in that, and we've scarred. Sammy Watkins, team 2, well done. Start him week 1 and then cut him, as we know. His last 3 opening week games, like it was last year was 14 points. The week before was like 21, and then 3 years ago it was that like 39-point explosion. You draft Sammy Watkins, you best believe he's going to go off week 1 before getting hurt. Darrell Williams,
and you're not going to start him week 1, so it's just it's a recipe for disaster.
I am once again going to ask, as I've done in every stream, am I missing something with Damian Williams? He has way more upside than Kyren Williams, Darrell Williams, Mike Davis, Mark Ingram, Sony Michel. Like Amir Abdullah, even Isaiah Spiller, I'm taking over. This guy conceivably could be the starting running back on a team with a coach who wants to run the ball more. I know Cordarrelle's there, but fantasy community doesn't like Cordarrelle. If you don't like Cordarrelle, Algire's done nothing. Damian Williams is going to get touches. I'm just like, I haven't seen him drafted over, I believe, like the 18th, 19th round in all the streams I've done with you.
And you had a little positive press that he's going to be a big part of the offense, especially, on the early downs this week. Yeah. So it's weird. I mean, I feel like he's a perfect, fit for, this type of setup at the end of the round.
I just don't get why he hasn't been moving up.
Yeah, especially Mike Davis, Mark Ingram, Sony Michel.
If you're drafting an old veteran running back, maybe draft one who could actually be the starter.
Yeah, who could have value week 1. I mean, he might not have value week 5, but we don't care about week 5 with these picks. I mean, maybe he takes the job. I mean, you don't know that. He's shown plenty of flashes in the past of being able to be that guy.
I'm picking up.
Here we go again. Team 7 on the clock. Is Team 7 live there? Can you see him?
I don't. Let me go see if I can. I'm not going to. I don't.
No, you don't have to. I just thought you might have been close to
I don't know off the top of my head. I was going to scroll up and see the names, but I realized, of course, I'm so used to being in my room radius, I could just turn around.
Does Team 7 take a running back?
Can't really tell.
It's hard to say because people are missing, so you don't know where they're sitting.
I think it's also, but they also just
still doesn't take one.
Wow,
Foster Moreau.
Yikes! What this is crazy. What they did, they made us forget.
The Raiders, right?
Yeah, he's their back.
I haven't even seen Foster Moreau being drafted.
No, I can go look for you. But you know what's so crazy? I just want to remind us, just for the laughs, Josh Jacobs was drafted in the 4th round in this, not even late 4th, early 4th in this league, and that team isn't getting any crap from us.
Here's the fun part about this all. They can only take one quarterback. They have to take a kicker and a defense with 2 of the last 3 picks. So one quarterback is all they could take.
Foster Moreau. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off because I do your best. I just want to let you know, Foster Moreau in the main events the last 2 days, there has been like 40 main events teams drafted. Foster Moreau has been drafted in 3 of them with an average pick in the 20th round. It's they don't know what they're doing. Did Terp freeze? Terp froze again. Terp is frozen. And this is a perfect reaction for how he feels about Team 7. So hopefully Terp comes back. I'll see what's going on with him. You know what? I'm leaving Terp on the stream. On this stream, I'm gonna leave him like this. His reaction of just hands on his head, just stunned at Team 7. But no, before he left, before he left, he did make a good point. They literally can't take a multiple quarterbacks, so they're going to be stuck with someone else. I am going to take him off now, and hopefully he comes back. Team 7, we're Terp might have movement. Yeah, Dave, you're in the chair here. That team strategy literally froze Terp's screen. It's just upset him that much. So we'll wait on Terp. He'll probably be back to figure out what's going on with his computer. Recapping this last couple of rounds, I'll just go over 17. San Francisco defense, Sammy Watkins, Darrell Williams, Van Jefferson, Evan McPherson. Tampa defense, Foster Moreau, Deontay Foreman. Indianapolis, defense, and Devin Duvernay. I've been kind of on the record. I like James Prochet over Devin Duvernay. But again, at this point, late upside, I think someone is going to emerge out of the Prochet or Devin Duvernay and actually become somewhat reliable because the Ravens are starved for weapons. One of them, you conceivably, one of them has to break out, or that offense could very well suck. Marvin Jones goes another guy that I kind of like late for all that me and Terp kind of trash these like veteran receivers with a limited ceiling. Marvin Jones is the rare one I actually don't mind. Statistically, every year he seems to perform. I know they signed Kirk, but Marvin Jones is the number 2. I know Terp's not here, so I can't elicit a crazed reaction from him, but would not stun me if Marvin Jones outscores Christian Kirk this year. I think he's just reliable. I think he and Trevor Lawrence do have a connection. He was their best receiver last year, which isn't saying much. Underlying stats on Marvin Jones are good. So that's maybe I'll throw that as a hot take in round 18. Marvin Jones, don't know if I'm going to actually predict it, so I'm going to hedge my bets here, but would not surprise me if he outscores Christian Kirk. Tua goes off the board. Team 7 still just wondering what quarterback they're going to end up with. I'm assuming they go with one here. If they go with a defense or kicker, I would have killed. I hope Terp's back by then because I would love to see his reaction. Thank the Lord. Dave, thank you. Dave, you're going to be my co-host in the chat for the next 2 rounds. He does always outperform his ADP. Again, Terp was saying earlier, I forget who exactly, it might have even been mixing. Not sexy. You don't love drafting. You're not going around praising your pick of Marvin Jones. But every year he kind of performs. Similar to Jarvis, who I was giving love to on the last stream. 2 guys who are going kind of 14th. Terp is back.
I mean, that guy just literally froze my screen.
He froze your screen. I was saying at least it happens now in the 18th round when you and me are already like exhausted. And I just want to let you know, you froze with your hand on your forehead. And I left you up there for a while.
The pain of what he's doing. Does he take a quarterback or a kicker or defense?
I was saying, I hope you're back in time for if he takes a kicker or defense.
Daniel Jones.
He takes a quarterback. Team 7 takes the quarterback. And you're starting Daniel Jones. Jameis, Baker, like that's your quarterback you're taking?
I mean, yeah.
I guess you're streaming, so maybe if you like the matchup against the Titans, but give me Jameis against the Falcons week 1, personally.
Upside, so like that is definitely, possible, I guess, but not for me, man. No words. They literally froze your screen. They take Daniel Jones, ending our long question. QB19. Because I was so disgusted.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, maybe Terp just doesn't come back.
Here, because my whole screen is just like totally black. I can't even turn my computer off. So I'm on my phone right now just to try to save the end of the stream.
Yeah.
Jeez. How do you like? I'm all about Daniel Jones this year. I like Daniel Jones, but
You're talking about a $10,000 buy-in, and you have one back on your team, and it's Daniel Jones, who very likely could be benched by week 2.
Yeah, just.
And then, not like you have other options. Who are your other options? Questions. Matt Ryan. Question.
There's no good option. I was just surprised because there was no pick that we were going to like, they worked out for them. I'm just surprised Jones was the pick because I think there was a couple of quarterbacks out there who maybe could have turned into a more reliable quarterback option than they would have anticipated drafting one in the 18th round, a la Jameis. Heck, even to Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has weapons there. I know Jonathan Taylor's there, but Matt Ryan, I think, is going to end up being a fine streaming option week to week. Wentz was at times last year. So
it's just good luck trying to figure out when that is. I mean,
exactly. It's rough sledding.
Perot over another quarterback? What?
I have to admit, though, I'm also surprised at Daniel Jones. I said like low 20s quarterbacks are drafted. Probably still end up, but not as many as I thought. We're probably going to end up, like 21, 22, if that.
Not type of league. I mean, in a football guys league or a main event league, you could easily get away with drafting one quarterback. Taking a backup quarterback, taking up a roster slot doesn't mean that much because most guys don't take backup quarterback.
Uh-huh.
So you can get away with it then. In this type of league, you're just literally worried about right now. So each week, you have Daniel Jones as your only option. Like, that is just a disaster waiting to happen on a team that realistically started very well, but then since has been just a free-for-all.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see who our favorite and least favorite. Team 1, I think, has continued. Like, even their upside picks I mentioned, I was saying while you were frozen, the two guys I talked about were I mentioned Jarvis, my love for him, because I was saying I wanted your reaction because you're going to furiously shake your head no and think I'm ridiculous. It would not surprise me if Marvin Jones outscores Christian Kirk this year.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I know you don't agree with it. Here's my reasoning. Underlying stats are still positive for Marvin Jones. And as Dave...
better than Marvin.
Who?
Zay Jones will be better than Marvin.
Okay, so we're really different. I know that the bottom's going to drop out on Marvin Jones because he's been out forever. I guess my point is just underlying stats are good. He seems like he just always outperforms his ADP.
I'm a fan of the player. I just feel like Christian Kirk is just... He's not a guy that I'm like totally overexposed to. He's not a guy like I'm going to bang the table for. But I feel like he brings just targets coming to him. He should be lead that team in targets by a ton. And if he can show anything, show some sort of rapport with Lawrence, I feel like where he's getting drafted is perfect for him.
So team 1, what I think seems like you're a runaway contender, but then they go back-to-back defense. I know that's not going to change too much, but you think you know them. Why are they going back-to-back defense? Like, and then it's not back-to-back, 2 defenses. What's the point of that?
I already know that answer, but maybe they don't like what's available. I mean, the second defense they took, I can't see it. It's the Colts.
It's the second defense. I'll start reading out these last rounds for you. They took New Orleans defense as their second one.
Saints play. Who do the Saints play?
Falcons. Niners play the Bears. So,
yeah, I don't understand that move. That's probably the first thing so far that I don't really.
But you're round 19.
Round 19, they pretty much the draft. So maybe they have a plan of they're looking down the road at a couple of matchups, like I don't know, the week 2, things like that. They might be looking at it as San Francisco. They're going to start week 1, then cut them. And the Saints have a better thing. It could be the opposite. I mean, you don't know, but this late, I mean, I don't think it really.
I'll read off the last couple of rounds for you. Round 18, Harrison Butker, Tua, Rex Burkhead, Daniel Carlson, Brandon McManus. Team 7 gets Daniel Jones as their quarterback. Laviska, Samaje Perine, Matt Gay, Denver defense, Tyler Bass, Zach Moss, team 1. And then team 1 doubles up on defenses with New Orleans. Green Bay defense, Dustin Hopkins. Deshaun Watson is the 20th quarterback off the board. My guy, Damian Williams. It's crazy saying he's my guy. I just think he should be going higher. And then Matt Prater and Cincy defense.
Especially on a team like that. If Damian Williams is on the, Bears or something like that, we wouldn't be talking about it. But in that team with what they have, he makes a lot of sense this late.
Yeah. Cincy defense, and then followed up Mo Alley Cox. Here goes to team 8. Team 9 has their defense and kicker. I wonder if they go a backup quarterback in these last 2 rounds. We'll see. Are you real quick? Are you surprised? This is, I think, our first time I've seen Watson drafted. Are you surprised with that? Is that like you got to wait 12 weeks?
Type of format. Watson's their backup, correct?
Yeah. I don't know who their starter is, but I know for sure 5 had a quarterback. Let's scroll up. Team 5 had Kyler as their starter. No, wait. I was messing up. Team 4 has Kyler as their starter. Watson is the backup.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Kyler has a week 13 bye, and that's right when Watson will be back.
Yeah.
So I don't hate that. I mean,
yeah,
going to sit on the bench with this type of situation. I mean, you're not really as worried about lottery tickets as you are as winning weekly games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not the bad pick. I mean,
you're also preventing a team from picking them up in the middle of the season. Who a good team may be grabbing a quarterback if that's a weakness for them.
A team 7 who, would be a perfect fit for a week 12 Deshaun Watson, that now is literally going to roll out Daniel Jones and Matt Ryan and Baker Mayfield and Davis Mills and Carson Wentz, and maybe Malik Willis gets a start so he can throw all his fab on him. But
I hope Malik Willis gets a run this season. I think he will. I don't think he's going to be good, real football terms, but I think he's going to have, like, if you hear, like, I don't know, week 9, Tannehill's hurt, Malik Willis is going to start, I'm starting. Maybe not. You have to look at the team, but I would not be opposed to starting him. I just think similar kind of Lance last year. I think his rushing output is just going to deliver big weeks if he starts.
After that, I mean, if he could just improve it as a passer, which is still obviously that's why he fell in the draft, but the athletic ability with Willis, I mean, he's definitely somebody that people will be watching as the season go on to see if Tannehill just Titans start losing. He's definitely a guy to pick up for $1 a couple weeks early and then just storm on your bench, especially whether you have quarterback issues or not. I mean, he could be a lottery ticket that is starting come like sprint time at the end of the year.
Malik Willis, first off, ridiculous that he fell to the 3rd round. So if you go to my Twitter,
I remember
for the 2021 draft coverage, I was hyping up Malik Willis, so I was all over him for this year. I just, the talent, he's raw. That hasn't. I was just so confused because it hasn't stopped teams before. Like Trey Lance, I love coming out of North Dakota State, dude. So, like you take those guys and if you trust your organization to develop it, the dude has the physical skill set to succeed. It's not as though he has a weak arm. You just got to get his decision making down and maybe some of the accuracy. And then, but when you're athletic as he is and the rushing output, like, it's crazy to me in hindsight. Jalen Hurts has really worked out so far better than I would have anticipated. But Jalen Hurts is a round 2 pick, and Malik Willis falls to 3 was crazy to me because Malik Willis's arm is just
much better.
So much better. And he's a more dynamic rusher, which is crazy to say, but he is. He's more explosive as a rusher. He's just not as big. Recapping for you, end of round 19, Ty Chandler, Rodrigo Blankenship, Rams and Chargers defense go back-to-back, and then Cameron Brate, Ryan Suckup, Daniel Bellinger. Not even going to try and pronounce that name. Don't know who that is. Some running. Oh, is that the Vikings running back? Nwangwu?
I gotta
look up who that is. Kene Nwangwu.
Yeah, that's definitely right, like running back.
I think he's the Vikings.
Yeah, he is.
No, I'm just gonna say, a guy who we haven't talked about again, round 20. Who knows what happens? It's you cut him. But if Madison were to get traded, it goes back to Dalvin's getting hurt at some point.
Yeah.
That guy could be a starting running back. Dave Gladstone, our guy still in the chat, rushing QBs rarely work for the long run. Yeah, but the thing, in some ways, yes, you can rely on quarterbacks the Kaepernicks, the RG3s, who rushing was more the element of their game. You need a guy like Russell Wilson who has the threat of rushing and can, but also is a great passer. I think that's where like the jury's out on Lamar really come playoff time is
Holmes and Herbert and Mahomes.
Yeah. Obviously, 2 good options.
The rushing ability, especially around the goal line. They're not like Brady's of the world, the Burrows of the world that aren't going anywhere.
I mean, Mahomes is an underrated rusher. As silly as that sounds, like Mahomes has wheels.
But if you're paying a guy $250 million a year, I don't really want him rushing.
Yeah, I mean,
I want him to be what he's good at, and that's throwing the football.
Yeah, Lamar's such an interesting litmus test because he's such a talented rusher, and he's just such a great overall player. But the passing ability just concerns you come playoffs.
I want to give him $250 million guaranteed. I wouldn't do it.
I would.
He hasn't.
Honestly, you want to hear what's crazy to me is I know he hasn't showed it, but some part of me also looks at though is they haven't given him weapons.
They haven't, but you also could say that weapons don't want to come there.
That is true. I disagree with that though. I would love for the Ravens to sign Antonio Brown. I don't think they'll ever do it. They're too. What?
Look at all the free agents that were free agents receivers this year. None of them. I
don't know. I think you pay Lamar. He's a talent. The his passing has improved each season.
He is too, and that's why they're not the extension. I think the extension gets done by tomorrow. Personally, I think they figured
the deadline. Yeah,
too many questions that for both sides. If it doesn't get done, like if they're a little bit off, I feel like they just sign it, because then you're going to go on the off season with is he going to get franchise tagged and keep going through that? That's a disaster for a team.
What's crazy is, this is a take I have. When you look at the best combination of passing and rushing, it's Kyler. Like, I don't think it's a debate. I think it's Kyler.
Yeah.
Because, like, I guess you could say Russ, Mahomes. I'm talking about as a guy who, like, literally is a threat for 100 yards, like, rushing. It's Kyler. Dude has wheels, and he's a great passing quarterback, too.
Yeah.
This is too small. So let's recap this draft, because, Turp, we've been on here for close to 2 hours and 45 minutes, and thank you for everyone for tagging along. The draft is done. Let's just run through. We talked about it extensively. We'll look through who was your favorite team from the draft. You let me know, and we'll kind of scroll through here. And obviously, looking at these first 14 rounds,
it was very close behind. And number 9. I mean, after that, I feel like there's a couple other teams that are close, and there's some obviously bad teams that we talked about. We're not going to try to talk about them anymore because they know that. But $10,000, I feel like 1 and 2 were the favorite by a good margin.
1, 2, 9. I think if 9 went with their quarterback earlier, 9 would have been my pick. I'm going to go with 1. I'm going to tail you on that one. Especially, you said it. It's really relying on if Javonte can get that out of that maybe committee, that team is loaded.
I agree.
And Hurts, I mean, yeah, just that they had a great draft. So we both love Team 1. I'll just review it real quick for everyone at home one more time. McCaffrey, Javonte, A.J. Brown, A.J. Dillon, Darnell Mooney, Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Hurts, Naheem Hines, George Pickens, and Njoku, McKenzie, Evan Ingram, Zamir White, Jarvis, Derek Carr, Justin Tucker, San Francisco defense, Zach Moss, the New Orleans defense, and then Dontrell Hilliard is our last pick. They get a full readout because we love their draft so much.
Sure, but they did a very good job. I think I know who it is, so we'll see if I'm confirmed when this is over.
Yeah, we'll figure out off stream who all those people are. Thank you everyone for tuning in with us. We were excited to have been able to bring that to you. Live draft coverage from Vegas. We'll be back for one more live coverage this year. We don't know exactly when it's. I'm leaning maybe Saturday, but I'll talk with you about that. Either Friday or Saturday, we'll be doing a main event, see how the Thursday games affect it. And hopefully for the full draft, we'll be able to give you the actual draft board here in Vegas. So that's going to do it for myself and Turp. As always, my FFPC.com spot still available in the Football Guys Players Championship. Win $500,000 there. And the main event, win $1 million.
$1 million. Go get your money.
Turp, I will see you tomorrow or Saturday. I wish you best of luck as the season kicks off. And I wish you best of luck in your main events coming up tomorrow.
Win some money.
I will do my best to. So again, Friday, Saturday, main event coverage, one last one, and then on to the season. That's going to do it for us. See ya.